Folks, welcome to Everything Pro Wrestling. Everything Pro Wrestling is a show by the fans, for the fans. And with me once again is my main man, Bryan Williams, and we are here today to talk about Smackdown vs. Raw 2010 and the last Smackdown vs. Raw 2011. Make sure you guys join us and enjoy the intro.
Everything pro wrestling, it can never be you. Listen to the podcast here for the people. The best show that's here, so listen in. Let the knowledge begin. The opinion and the lesson. Yes.
All right, B, what's going on, brother? Another week down.
I know, brother. I'm doing good. How you doing, man?
I'm hanging in there, dude. Hanging in there. How are things out your way, man? Let's talk regular for a second before we get into video game talk.
Things are good. I mean, not too much has changed since last week, except I don't know if it's new, but now, because like I said, the only time I go out is to the office on occasion and to the grocery store. And I went to my Vons a couple days ago, and I'm glad. I mean, I've been wearing my mask anyway, but I'm glad I went because you can't even get inside the Vons unless you have a mask on. Like, if you're not covered up, they're not even gonna let you in that motherfucker. Yeah. So that's like the only change here. But I'm masked up. I got some bandanas, looking like a Crip out here some days, a Blood some other days. But making some shirts out of old, or some face masks out of old wrestling shirts that I got. So I'm maintaining, just like I'm sure everybody else is out there.
Yeah, man, I got the same thing at work, man. They started making us all wear masks, and I'm gonna be honest, if you guys know where I work, you're gonna probably don't say it in the chat, but dude, you didn't have masks last week, and now you're requiring us to wear masks? Come on, bruh. Come on.
I know.
What is going on, everybody, though? I see PR Nightmares in the house, Original Biggie, Prince Rockstar in there. If you guys are watching this video right now, do me a favor, hit the like button. We already have 14 people hit the like button, so you guys are greatly appreciated. But don't be afraid, get in the live chat, hit us with your best questions. If you remember the game or have fond memories of the game, I'll be reading them throughout this podcast, so make sure you guys show some love. And Rob said evening, and he said thank you both with the wink face. I think I know what that's for, Rob. Don't thank me, trust me on that. And Prince Rockstar wrote Blood versus Crips. Yeah, Brian's got to be careful. He's out West Coast, man. This is some GTA type stuff. You got to be careful out there with your colors.
Yeah, but you know what, though? The pandemic has kind of like stalled all that. You know what I mean? Because everybody's got to cover that face. Like, Corona is way more scary than whatever set you claiming. You know what I mean?
You know, it's hard out here for a pimp trying to get that money for the rent, baby. What's going on, Donnie? Good to see you in here. Shout out to Original Biggie. Original Biggie sent me a lot of questions for the second half of this, Brian, so be prepared. I'm trying to work some of them in, and I may have to pull them up for you. Connor, thank you for joining us as well. Thank you, guys. Like I said, feel free to jump in if you guys have questions. Brian, I think we wasted enough time. These guys want to talk about the video game, it looks like, so.
All right, well, let's get to it then.
Smackdown vs. Raw 2010, good sir. Man, this is a decade ago, bro.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. Damn. Didn't feel that long ago, but yeah, I guess it was.
Yeah, dude, a decade. And
oh no, go ahead.
No, man, that's just a long time, man. Just thinking about it, where I was back then, completely different.
Yeah, I know. Same here. I will say it was out of all the games that I've revisited, like being able to revisit these two was probably, up until this point in the series, was probably the most fun that I had. I got a lot of good memories working on both of these games. A lot of good memories. These were the best times for B. Will working at THQ and making these games, because it was a small crew. We had Corey, who was the creative director, the big boss. But beyond that, it was myself, it was Justin Leeper. Shout out to my boy Justin, dropping some freaking heat recently about these news about WWE 2K. And my boy Dan. So it's like I was working with two of my best friends on wrestling. The three of us were like the biggest wrestling nerds on the team. So it was just a very cool moment in my career.
Yeah, that Smackdown vs. Raw 2010. This game had a lot of excitement for me. Like I said, 08 was kind of and then they kind of finally brought it up to speed. So I was really looking forward to this game. What's going on, Derek? I see you in the chat as well with the yo-yo. Yeah, dude, just so different this game was. It had a lot of promise in my eyes, but there were a lot of things too that kind of stalled this from the promise that it had, and like I said, it had a lot of issues and everything else with it.
Okay, well let's start with the issues.
Bryan, the tagline said it's your world now. What the hell happened to all my moves in the game, bro?
Whoa, that wasn't this game, was it?
Yeah.
Really? I thought it was 2011.
This was the game.
Oh, is this the one?
Strip, butt naked.
Oh, shit. Okay, I thought that was for 11. All right, so I told you before we started this, that I kind of wrote this statement. I'm not going to read this long-ass statement about why these moves were removed, because this is a pretty lengthy statement. This isn't no press conference. The short of it was, we started. I mean, this. All right, so by the time that SmackDown vs. Raw 10 came out, we were. Man, how many games? We were deep in terms of the series, and up until SVR07, a lot of the animations were all created by keyframe. They were hand drawn, and once 2007 came out, made the switch from PS2 to 360 PS3. We started motion capturing a lot of the motions, and so by the time that we got to SVR10, and it was one of those things where year over year we started with 07. Just motion capture became the way in terms of getting, animation data into the game. We stopped doing keyframe, but a lot of those old keyframe animations were still in the game. And, we got to a point where it started to look janky and like a mishmash, like when you were playing any kind of match where you'd go from seeing an obvious keyframe, animation, move, and then mixed in with, some of the newer motion capture data. And it created this schism when you're playing the game, visually, like it just wasn't consistent. And, as someone who's working on the game, like I always want the game to have its, put the best foot forward, in all respects, gameplay, how it looks, all of that. And so a decision was made by me. Like anybody who's mad, it was me, it was me. I went through and I got rid of a lot of those old animations. And a lot of them were motions that had been in the game as far back in some cases as like the PS1 days. And my only intent and goal behind that move was just to, have the game from a visual standpoint look as consistent as it could. And I don't think it was a bad move on my part. The only thing because I'm hearing the feedback from the fans at the time. The one thing that I would say, like hindsight being what it is, and if I could go back and change anything, I probably would have. I would have been less forceful in terms of the motions that I asked to be removed. I would have, kind of maybe done it in pieces, in sections, where instead of getting rid of, this many, I kind of do it incrementally, from one iteration to the next. But that was the mind state, behind that decision. And I was just thinking long term about the game, and knowing that, whatever is getting removed, it'll eventually be replaced, and it'll be replaced with, a mocapped piece of animation, just to get the game visually on a consistent basis. So I do apologize for being as aggressive as I was with the deletion of those motions. They were never deleted, for one. When I actually joined Yuke's, and I started doing a lot of, not programming, but I was in charge of, the move data and adding them into the game, assigning them in create a move set, putting them on the character, setting their damage, setting their mid reversal points. Like I was like all into that shit when I was with Yuke's. I'm still with Yuke's. And I realized, the process that it took to remove a move, you can basically hide a move or you can delete it outright. And a lot of those motions that were removed were simply just hidden from the player's view and their ability to access them. But yeah, that was it. And again, if I pissed you off with that move, I apologize, but my heart was in the right place. I was just a little too aggressive and removing so many moves in one game, and for that I do apologize.
I feel like we're gonna have to treat this like head of state now. Send in the stunt double. All right. All right. If you know what movie I'm talking about, you're old enough to know. But Rob in the chat said plausible deniability, Bryan, with laughing faces crying. Original Biggie put, it was me, Conrad. It was me all along. PR Nightmare. I don't know if PR Nightmare messing with me or whatnot. Do I have a little bit of the bubbly? Just H2O tonight, brother. Brother's broke, man. Buy a t-shirt. See the links in the link tree down below. But yeah.
I got a little bit of the Miller Lite.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, definitely buy that. Buy them t-shirts. Support Conrad.
That's what I like to hear. Thank you, B. Now, when you talk about this, here's the crazy thing. Now, Marcus was on the team back then. If you guys don't know, Marcus Stevenson, probably, he's definitely in my top 3. I think he's my favorite community manager out of anyone that we had. I thought Marcus was really always in there, like, down for the people. He knew his pro wrestling. Like, he would talk to you about some 1990s old school shit, and it was just lovely. So, Marcus was always one of my favorite people back in the day to talk to. And I remember him from the Madden forums and everything else. So, Marcus was a cool cat.
Yeah, he's one of my favorites too.
When you saw Marcus back in the day, I can't remember the guy's name who used to mod moves in the game. And Marcus, you probably can't get in trouble for this shit now. But when you see this dude, I remember at one point the guy asked for I don't remember if it was this year or another year where Jericho was out, but Jericho didn't have the lion salt. It might have been this game. And he wanted him to do the lion salt so bad. And I remember Marcus said, look, bro, you didn't get this from me. And I can't remember what forum it was on. It was like so quickly deleted. And I saw it. And Marcus gave him the code for the lion salt. Everyone was like, yo, bro, how did you get a video with Jericho doing the lion salt? So I knew those moves were still in there. That's why we were mad at you. Like, yo, did Bryan just play us? Like, the moves are still in the game and he just deleted them? So that was probably part of the reason why you caught some heat for it. Because then a bunch of people saw it on, like, the Smack Talks forums and everywhere else.
Oh yeah, I really thought that was 2011, but I guess it was.
You know what? That dude ended up getting in trouble though, because I think he got sued by another gaming company because he would mod stuff all the time, and he finally got hit with some like legal stuff.
Oh damn!
I was just like, dang, it's real like that, man. So I think he chilled out on all that afterwards.
Yeah, it ain't worth catching the case over. That's for damn sure.
Yeah. Oh man, it's definitely not for something that you do for fun or as a hobby. But let's get into some other stuff. Bryan addressed the move thing. He did it in his presidential manner. He was calm, cool about it. So I'm not going to hold it against you, good sir.
Thank you.
If I have enough faith in your abilities to trust that if this was good for the long term, I'm cool with it. Now, the biggest question is what happened to the soundtrack was one of the first things I noticed in doing my homework for this. We went to all of the wrestler theme songs, and if I heard Luke Gallows' theme one more time during this time period, like it was a badass theme, but that's all I can hear in the back of my mind is Luke Gallows and Drew McIntyre's themes playing. And Broken Dreams is badass, by the way.
It is badass. I was going to say I love Drew's original music. That's a banger.
I wish he still had it, to be honest.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, you know, this is the question that I got from the homeboy Roman Blair, who hit me up on Twitter with a whole bunch of questions. He wanted to know about the soundtrack and like why, as the game went on, like a lot of the licensed music got fewer and fewer until it just eventually was just all the superstar, you know, interest music. And you know, as someone who wasn't all that involved in, you know, the soundtrack for the games, the only thing that I can think of is why they lessened that was money. You know, they figured, well, why are we paying X amount of money for these licensing these tracks? And it's funny how it goes because like 10, 11, and then I'm not sure when we go full superstar interest themes, but that kind of it goes along basically the health of THQ as a company, where towards the end it was nothing but superstar things because, you know, we were cutting costs, you know, when it comes to the money that we spent on the project. And that's the only thing that I can think of. And, you know, having worked there, that's probably the most plausible reason why we got away from the licensed music was just money.
Honestly,
that it was worth the cost.
Oh, sorry to cut you off there for a second. Honestly, though, I talked to you about it last week. The indie soundtracks are one of my favorite things, and it seems like one of the reviews that I ended up watching for it, they felt the same way like I did. Like, those songs introduced me to new bands that I wouldn't listen to, like Breaking Benjamin, man, I found out probably because of wrestling video games. There were just so many great bands that you just happen to find out about. And I don't know, like, once in a while, yeah, it's cool to have one of those songs in there. But like I said, dude, I remember even the 2K ones. Like, I just was listening to the NBA 2K11 soundtrack the other day. Like, I was just doing, a little workout, and then all of a sudden I'm like, yeah, let me listen to this again. And then I was like, let me find the PL put the song out called In the Zone. If you guys ever want to hear the song that should have been an NBA 2K11, that was the last year they did it, where they would give you the beat and then you had to make the song for it. I thought it was just so good, man. So I kind of just missed the music here. We're getting some comments in the chat. Malik, Narcolepsy Boy 94. Brian, you've been on his channel before with me.
I was going to say, is that the same Malik? The Malik that I'm thinking of? What up, Malik?
Malik wanted you to know that SmackDown vs. Raw 2008, he loved it, so that you don't think everyone hated the game.
Oh, thank you, brother. Thank you. I appreciate that.
And he asked another question here. He said, would they bring back Road to WrestleMania? I was a big fan of those. I would love for that to return. Well, I'll preface this for Brian beforehand. Brian doesn't work with WWE Games anymore. They broke that relationship after 2K19. Hence the reason why we got 2K20. No offense. But that's their game. Brian didn't work on that. Brian probably worked on the last good one that I can say I honestly enjoyed. So
I did.
Road to WrestleMania, I don't know what the process is for that, Brian. I like Road to WrestleManias. Justin Leeper's playing them on his channel. I would love to see him bring it back. If wishes were fishes, that's how I'd have to leave it.
Yeah, I agree. Doing this series with you, and it's giving me a chance to go back and replay all these old games. And I mean, Justin did a great job with those Road to WrestleManias. I mean, and again, I think I mentioned it on the last show, where in comparing, what he did with Road to WrestleMania to what that one designer did with 24/7 mode in SmackDown vs. Raw 2008. The difference is in the creativity of the designer, and then the passion that he had. And Justin's got a lot. He's a passionate cat, but he also knows wrestling, and he's a good freaking writer. And also, shout out to Justin. He's written 2 novels, which are really, really dope. If you Stillman Fights is the first one. I forget the second one, but no, he's just a really good writer. And playing Road to WrestleMania in 2009, 2010, and 11. I mean, you're just you can tell this was created and designed by someone who got it. And whatever happens with the franchise moving forward, I mean, they can easily bring that mode back. I mean, because honestly, it's just it's the name, but what makes that thing special is the secret sauce of the designer and the love they put into it. So,
Yeah, honestly, I miss those being into the game. We'll hit on that once we get to the 2K series. Once we get to all that, and I think we're gonna have to address an elephant in the room that Justin brought up, but we'll save that for the very end for people. So that'll be your dessert to stay around for it while we're getting through the meat and potatoes of this. Brian, the training facility that they had when you opened up the game, dude, super dope. And if you're a real wrestling fan, it's based off FCW, so I 100% loved it, dude.
Yeah, so a little story behind the training facility. So we went to FCW for a promotional event in support of SVR09. And while we were there, first of all, it was dope. I mean, I visited FCW. I've been able to visit the Performance Center a couple of years back, and just night and day. But I mean, FCW was just this kind of dank garage, very lo-fi, but had some of the best people working there. I got to meet Dusty Rhodes, Dr. Tom Pritchard, who I had met previously a couple years ago, because he would attend motion capture when we were still using the WWE talent. And me and Dan were there, and because Dan and I both got to work with Dr. Tom at mocap, and being able to go to FCW and chill with him, like he gave us a tour. We went to the back room with all the rings set up. It was just a really cool time. We had our press event, and then that night, us and the press that were there in attendance, we got to watch an FCW taping. Just a really cool experience. So yeah, you're right. Yeah, the training facility is, I mean, based off of FCW. I mean, it's pretty much that is FCW,
Right.
just without the name.
I think
But
you guys just changed some of the banners, maybe.
yeah, probably change the banners to make it more current. But beyond that, like the layout and everything, like that is where they shot their weekly TV show. And the thing about that, the training facility is that this was not the original idea for it. You know, I've always been a big proponent of having some sort of tutorial mode in the game, and every year, again, the cost. You know, when it comes down to figuring out, okay, here's what we want to do, but costs. So things have to get kind of cut and whittled away before we can start actual production. And tutorial modes are always the first thing on the chopping block. And this was meant to be a much more robust tutorial. And it ended up being a scaled down version of what it was meant to be originally. But in spite of all that, you know, I think it was a pretty cool feature. I was in charge of the training facility, you know, adding all the commands and whatever functionalities are there. Like that was one of the things that I was in charge of from a creative standpoint.
Yeah, Original Biggie in the chat said he loved the training facility. Wish they had it now. I think what you said, though, is that would be the first thing I would chop out, too, though. Like, eventually the gamers know what you're getting out of this. Like, you knew the buttons at this point. Like, I felt like I was an expert at that point. Like, okay, I got it after 2 games. I know what we're doing here and what we're trying to do.
Yeah, but for me, I get that. But my biggest thing, you know, I just wanted to, because I mean, our game was getting to a point. I mean, maybe it was already at that point where it was pretty much for the year-over-year fans. Like they almost like Madden fans or NBA 2K fans. You know, the same people are buying the game year-over-year. But, you know, myself, I just really wanted to, you know, bring in new fans, you know, because I'm sure there's a lot of, you know, wrestling fans who would be interested in playing the game. But sometimes, you know, people who haven't been playing it for as long as we have, it can be a little intimidating. So for me, I just wanted to have kind of this robust, fully featured mode to kind of like take people's hands and kind of walk them through why things are done the way they are. But yeah, I mean, I know that for everybody who's played the game, it's like they're used to how wrestling games are played and how they function. So it was more just meant for, you know, anybody new who may have an inkling or an interest in maybe picking one up. But yeah, I mean, it's costly, you know, when you start to see, well, we can do the tutorial, but then we're going to have to, you know, reduce or cancel out actual meaningful features as far as whether they're gameplay, create modes, online, whatever. And at that point, it's almost like, well, I mean, yeah, can't sacrifice the heart of the game for something like a tutorial. So I get it.
Live chat is hitting it up tonight. Let me try and get through some of these. Malik says SmackDown vs. Raw 2007 is the best WWE game ever to me, in my opinion. Thank you for creating that game. You made my childhood great. So that was for you, Bryan.
Well, that makes me feel old. How old were you, Malik?
You don't want to ask that, bro.
Man,
I was on Malik's channel the other day and we did a NBA draft, and it was the youngest people got to go first and the oldest got to go last. You know, I was mad as hell when I had to go last. I was like, bro, you set me up, man. You set me up.
Man. Oh, that's dirty. That's wrong.
Shout out to Marlon Anthony. Marlon, you left a really nice comment, so you're getting some love right now on the podcast. You'll get to hear your name in all of this. Marlon is talking about WWE 12, which will be the games that we talk about next on the podcast, so save your love for that, Marlon, especially if you got questions for it. But he's talking about some of the finest games of last gen. And PR Nightmare said I had every game up until 2016 for WWE Games. Yeah, man, there was a lot of fans, man. They had to tap out eventually, and we'll get to some of that. Sick, what's going on, brother? Just saw you join in here as well. This chat is popping tonight. Let's talk about the roster, Bryan. I've got a love-hate kind of thing with the roster a little bit for this one. To me,
okay.
the roster improved. We had a lot more people. They did what they could with this. The legends, though, bro. We got to talk about this.
Yeah.
DiBiase, old man Ted DiBiase, Bob Orton, and Dusty Rhodes. Now, Legacy was in the game. Legacy was the shit at the time. I'm not going to front. Like, we can't sit up here and lie. Like, Legacy wasn't the big deal. They were doing their things, but why did the legends appear in the game but not in their wrestling attires? Like I felt like we should have got both.
So this is 2010. So this was when Bob Orton was in the Road to WrestleMania story, right? So was Dusty Rhodes, and they're in their street attire. I think Dusty Rhodes in his street attire, and then Orton was too. Cost. I know, I know that's the dreaded word, but if, that's the only thing I can think of. I mean, I don't have any, concrete answers about why that was, but that'd be the only thing I can think of. What other legends were in that, by the way?
I think you guys did,
because those were guys in those were characters in Road to WrestleMania. Were there any other legends in that game that were outside of Road to WrestleMania?
Listen, bro. I think you guys charged $1 for The Rock and Stone Cold this one too. You were still messing up with the legends a little bit. Like Stone Cold's his moveset had the power bomb. Do you remember that? People were like, Stone Cold doing the power bomb. What is this, dog? And you charged me $1 for this? Like you guys it wasn't a lot of money, but it was just like you're charging me for Stone Cold and The Rock.
Yeah, I got a note here because I was going through, and so this was the second year that we did DLC. And I'm like, so Stone Cold was the only thing that we offered. I completely forgot about that.
I think Rock was in it too.
Was Rock in it too?
Mm-hmm. It was Stone Cold and The Rock for sure.
Yeah, that was weird. I don't know why we did our DLC that way, coming off, with our second year. Knowing what I know and just knowing what it's like to work at THQ, I could hazard a guess and say that the reason that we were so slim with the DLC was because of community creations and, kind of relying on other people to create the characters that weren't in the game and kind of driving people towards that. That would be my guess. And I'm not saying I agree with it, but as shitty as that sounds, that doesn't seem too far-fetched for what was going on.
Damn.
Yeah. But we got better.
I'm reading this chat, bro. So, listen, Malik, I'm going to ask your question, but everybody, if you got questions, keep it to the topic a little bit. Malik said, I heard a rumor that Yuke was going to be creating a new WWE game separate from WWE 2K. Is there any truth to that, and can you speak on it?
Yukes are potentially going to be developing another wrestling video game, but that's really all I can say. I can't talk about any companies or brands, but we are in talks to do a game. That's all I can really say.
Welcome to the world of NDA, folks. He can't disclose at this time, so we'll have to.
I mean, honestly, it's nothing that I can't. I mean, it's my boss Hiromi. Like she did that interview last year, and that's basically stating that we're doing the game. I think she might have mentioned that it was WWE related, but I'm not sure. That could have been taken out.
I think people get confused because you guys left the door kind of open. Like it made it sound like it was ending a relationship on a good note and you were willing to help. But it's what Justin said. Like you don't like the dumping of the boyfriend and girlfriend thing. You don't dump your boyfriend and then your girlfriend goes, "Hey, can you ask my ex to do that thing that I like that he did all the time?" Like you can't just go back to a company like, "Hey, help me out, bro." Like it doesn't work like that usually. Too much pride, ego, and money. You know how it goes. Sick.
But yeah, that's all I can talk about on that matter.
I'm with it, Brian. Sick said, yeah, I finally caught one of these. He said, I have questions, but I'm going to let it rock for now, so I'm sure something will be coming up. Sick was in XGW with me back in the day, too, so shout out to Sick. I think this is when you took your hiatus, bro, and then we didn't see each other. Let's see. Malik Gordon came in and said, Smackdown versus Raw.
I got a little bit of good news just now.
Huh?
I got a little bit of good news from work.
Oh, okay. Good.
Speaking about this. Little, not what I was hoping for, but better than...
Nothing?
It's not bad. It's good. We'll talk offline.
Okay. SmackDown versus Raw 06, Malik Gordon says was his favorite game. That was one of the first ones we talked about, so if you go back to part 1, Malik, you'll get into some of that. Bull rope match for the American Dream, dust the road if you will, daddy. I will never do that if Cody's ever on the show, I promise, because I know Cody hates Dusty impersonations, but he's one of my favorites to do. Randy Orton, bull rope match. Malik said in 07 he was 10. Malik, get out this chat. Come on now, bro. Don't make me feel old, bro. He said, I'm 22 years young, man. That game was my childhood.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it, brother. I am. It was, man, what was that? I was like 25, 26 when I worked on that. Oh, man, that's a long time ago.
Bro, I don't even think I think I was 20. I don't think I could drink yet. So you're like half my age, Malik. Cut that shit out.
Yeah.
Malik said, whatever game it is, I'll be buying it if it's anything like the old games. All right, I respect it. I appreciate that. Let's steer this train back to SmackDown versus Raw 2010, though.
Yeah.
Great feature that I thought was implemented. Superstar threads, bro.
That was dope.
Because do you know how often sometimes I would just say, dude, I just want the colors from the pay-per-view. Like, Rey Mysterio, one of my favorite people to create superstar threads for, because he had such badass attires, and you guys hooked it up so you could do one pant leg versus the other. Dude, I was making like the pink and black Mysterio. Mysterio had different colors like every month. I was like, okay, now we're about to do, we'll say this event's in Pittsburgh, and he'll wear the black and yellow for this week, and the next week will be in Charlotte, and I'll have him wear the Hornets colors with the green and purple. You would just think of wild, crazy shit. Him and Punk were my two favorites to do superstar threads for. Any involvement with that?
Punk was mine too.
Yeah, Punk was one of my favorites even like before. That's who I was actually in my EFED. I was CM Punk. So when he got like great, I was happy. I'm like, I don't even have to do anything. And my guy just got boosted when he starts getting his push a year later. But yeah, this was a great feature, I thought.
Yeah, so Superstar Threads was something that this was Corey's idea. Corey sometimes gets a lot of, well, maybe not now. I think hindsight being what it is, but I know at the time Corey would get a lot of kind of mean comments directed his way. But Corey was he had a lot of good ideas, and he was in that position for a reason. And he was the one that came up with the Superstar Threads. He came up with it as an end around because, we would always hear about, fans' requests of being able to edit the mainline roster. You know what I mean? Like players are able to do back in games from the past. Like No Mercy allowed you to completely edit the default WWE roster. Raw 2 for the original Xbox. Probably the only good thing about that game was the fact that it gave you complete freedom to alter, edit all the WWE, WWF, wrestlers. Outside of their clothing, like you could do their clothing, you could make Booker T look, into like a fat, obese version of himself. But I think that Raw 2 was the last game that allowed that level of customization when it came to the actual WWE wrestlers. And they wouldn't allow that. WWE was like, no, we don't want you guys, we don't want players to be able to edit, how our superstars look. Changing their bodies, their faces, all that. So Corey proposed, the Superstar Thread and said, well, look, okay, we'll leave the bodies alone. The facial features, all the physical features we'll leave alone. But would you be cool if we just gave players the ability to edit, the colors of their attire? And WWE was cool with that. And that, began Superstar Threads. So he presented the idea to Ukes. They got that thing up and running. And then it was my responsibility because I worked with the modelers a lot in terms of I was the one that and I guess it started with this year's game, 2010. I was the one that worked with the modelers, and I would sit down with our I forget his title, but Bernie. He was in charge of the outsourcing and all the guys creating the models. And I would sit down with Bernie, and we go through the roster, and I was responsible for picking out every wrestler's attire. Like, what's their default attire going to be? Any kind of alternate attires were usually decided, or they just were implemented based off of, Road to WrestleMania, or anything like that. But I picked out the default attire, and then once that was set, I then had to go in and I determined which parts of that attire would be made customizable within Superstar Threads. And there was a limit to what we could have customizable, and depending on the wrestlers, sometimes most of the wrestlers were easy because, although we had a restriction about the number of parts that we could make customizable, some guys had attire that was so like ornate and just a lot of just elements to it where it got a little tricky, where you had to kind of finagle the functionality a bit. I remember Ultimate Warrior being one that was kind of a bitch because he had so many elements of it too, with the attire, the tassels, and all that kind of stuff. Sometimes it can kind of be a pain.
Some people only had like 3 parts that you could edit on it, and it was like, well, this will just have to do. But most of the guys that needed it though, like Punk, Mysterio, you guys hooked them up so that you could mess with it a lot. HBK was another one. Original Biggie said HBK was his favorite to edit in Superstar threads. I have to give Kofi's another good one too, Rob. Rob brought up that he made a lot of attires for me. All right, Rob, you get your credit. You get your credit, bro. I know the Padre ones for Rey Mysterio was dope. It was fire. But the HBK, like his thread, he had that black, white, and red like leather chap attire for so long, bro. I was done with it. So when this got introduced, I was like, thank God, and I don't have to look at it if I don't want to. Like you can change that stuff. Do you know what I'm talking about? When he had that same attire for like 4 years, we're like, dude, change it to anything else. Anything.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. Malik just wrote Smackdown vs. Raw 2010 is very underrated. I feel it's a WWE game that nobody talks about, and that's the one year they came out with Superstar Threads. I played that game a lot. And Sick asked, did you help make Raw 2? I said I don't think so.
No, I didn't. I was a tester. I tested Raw 2. When I first joined THQ, I was a tester, and the first game that they put me on once I got through the training program was Raw 2. So I spent about 3 months testing that game. And to this day, I still am not sure how the fuck that game is played. That was not a very good game.
It had some cool features. I think if it needed that time.
The best part about it was just being able to customize the wrestlers. But yeah, it looked good. I remember that game looking really good, especially for the time that it came out. But yeah, I wasn't a fan of the gameplay. That was developed by Anchor. They did Pride for the PS2.
Yes.
It was that development studio.
Jeff Hardy was another good one. Good point, Malik, for Superstar Threads.
Yeah.
He was another dope one. And he had the face paint this year, too. The
face
white
paint.
face paint.
Yeah, the face paint. Anybody with face paint, it was dope. I went to town on that. I'm like, because it was cool. I get I look at the attires. I'm like, okay, let me see. I'm going to make this customizable, this. And then I kind of see, well, how many slots do I have left? I'm like, cool, I'm good. This one, that one. Like, I maxed them all out, unless it was a guy who was like a Stone Cold. I mean, it's, black trunks. But towards, I remember a couple years, maybe it was 2011 or 12, for guys that just had a couple of pieces of attire on, whether it was just very basic stuff, we started doing the halves. So if they're just wearing a regular pair of trunks, I'd be like, okay, well, we'll divide it up into left and right. So if you wanted to have the right half of the trunks one color and the other half another, we kind of use the slots for that as well.
I like that though, because you could do different things with it too, and it helped the creators out a lot. I felt when they wanted to blend colors or try to change something, it was a good feature, bro. Like that was 100%. So if Corey did that, kudos to Corey. I know he probably hates like when It's My Yard used to have Corey's tweets and stuff back in the day, like it's Corey's tweets, and then he would like show horrible pictures of Corey's face, like Corey the Dead Ma, and just retweets from him all day long for views. Let me see here. Goldust was another fun one. Goldust was rough, man, because he would turn into pink dust, brown dust. You see people going crazy online. You know what? Another cool feature about this was, so you talk about the editing attires. I remember I met Ant the Gamer online. So I used to play, like, if I saw, like, a big YouTube name on there, I'm like, yo, I'm about to hit up his room, about to see how good he really is. And I remember I played him one time. We had some good back and forth matches with like Shawn Michaels, and I had a great Muda Caw. Muda was like one of my favorite caws to use in all the games. And I was shining Wizard and Boys like there was no tomorrow. And this was old man Muda too, with like the bald head and all that stuff at the time. So it was a lot of fun, man. Good stuff. And you guys always showed love to Muda, wink face in the creation suite.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's probably, Yuke's, but we never like Muda, Liger, like those guys. It's like, yeah. That's got to be
Bro,
it.
those were my hearts, bro. So it didn't even matter. Like Liger and Muta are my two favorite of all time, and this is just because of WCW day shit. Like '92, I used to watch them. Like Muta versus Barry Windham all day, dog. I got it. You can leave me on that. Kick out meter for this one. I remember this for the online purposes of my league, and we used to have rules about the mashing. So, bro, a lot of people would take like a sock, a book probably that they weren't studying for school, I don't know what, to mash the buttons because your fingers would get raw if you were like smashing the buttons for so long, for how people would kick out in this game. I don't know if you guys were ever aware of that, but we used to have a rule where once you mashed 3 times, you were supposed to hold it. So that's how we knew if people were cheating. Because very rarely would you ever kick out of something like that. So very.
Wait, what was it like online? What was it like online? Because
people could kick out of everything.
Was it just button mashing, or was it the
button mashing?
The pin meter. Okay.
People probably hated playing me because I could kick out all day long. Like I wouldn't care if like I used to make just like a fist, and then you just go right across the controllers and rake it. Like, all right, boom, I'm out. I'm about to beat this dude now. Figure out a way to pen him, roll him up, something to get out of this match. But that was different. I think you guys improved on the meter later on with it. I wanted to show you love on better camera angles this time. This time I like the transition of how the cameras would move around. I don't know if a lot of people pay attention to this, but you would get like sometimes facing towards the Titantron area, flip the other way, the next way. So camera angles were much better than in 09.
Yeah, the camera angles are dope. But before I'm gonna go back to the pin meter because I have a note here that I put down. I don't remember playing it online because, like I said, I think we talked about it before. I was not the online guy, but we actually, I guess, offline, we talked about Legends of WrestleMania the last episode, and I took 2 things from Legends of WrestleMania and added them into this game, and one of them was the pin meter. We basically took the pin meter that they used in Legends of WrestleMania and kind of created our own kind of form of it and implemented that into SVR10. But I guess maybe it wasn't used online. Maybe it was just a straight up button mashing.
Yeah, I think it was just button mashing. Maybe that comes in 11 because the pin meter changes in my notes. I think I have it written down. So this one was kind of a little abusive because I remember that was one of the things I think I put as a bitch, or maybe Marcus had a survey that year and I put that in, like, change the pin meter. It doesn't work. Let me see here. What is this? Oh, I had loved the ring under wrestler, but that didn't make sense to me until I thought about it. The HUDs. You guys got rid of HUD meters. So, Bryan, this is future advice for whatever project you work on for video games, if you do fighting games or whatever. HUD meters, to me, suck.
You're anti-HUD.
They clutter up the game. Like, when I see the screen, I kind of want to feel immersed into it. And I know you have to have something that shows, like, okay, the finisher's there, whatever. But when you guys just had that little meter kind of around somebody's foot, I was like, oh, okay, this is really dope. Here's my problem with the 2K games of, like, later years. They had those big meters, and you know how you would do, like, the finishers that people would catch you out of? It takes away all strategy when I can see when you have a finisher, and I'm looking right directly at the guy's, like, meter bar, and I'm like, bro, you have a finisher. Like, I'm not jumping off the top rope so you can catch me with an RKO or whatever. I'm not stupid. So it takes away the strategy. But back in the old games, I can't remember if it was this one or 12, they had the meter and you couldn't see it. So sometimes I would jump off the top rope and I'm like, oh damn, I just got caught with a super kick. What was I thinking? Like, that made it more fun to me, even though it's like one of those little obsolete things, something small. But I think it really mattered to me, at least. I don't know. What did you think of the HUD meter?
No, I mean, the reason that we changed it was for that very same reason. And this was another Corey directive. Like, he felt the same way you did. He was never a fan of these kind of obtrusive HUDs all over the screen. It's one thing when it's like a one-on-one match, but like when you're in like a Royal Rumble or a 6-man and you got all these, wrestlers on, in a match, and you've got all their HUDs like a frame around the screen. I just remember Corey hating that. So he was the one that pushed to have this, very subtle HUD display underneath the feet. And I think he got it from the NBA games, how they would have the little halo underneath the player that you were controlling. and we kind of took that and used that for this game. I liked it too. You know, I'm like you. I don't need to see a lot of HUD. I mean, if there's something that I need to know, like, you can present it to me at that situation. But to just have that stuff up there static for the entire, you know, course of a match, like, I'm with you. I'm not a big fan of that. And when we used to have those old, you know, big HUDs, I would always go into the options and turn it off, you know, because I just want, like you said, I just want to be immersed in the match itself and not have to worry about all this other information on the screen.
Yeah, I think it just is a better presentation of I think it's better for everyone, better for the product, better for online play. I don't want to see a cluttered screen. Sometimes when you're playing like a 6-man chamber or something online, then you see 6 HUDs, and I'm like, dude, oh my god, get this out of here.
It looks ugly.
A lot of people are talking about the kickout meter in the chat. This really matters to them, it looks like. Something Marlon says, something I hate to this day is the pin meter. Give me button mashing 7 days a week. The pin meter, non-functional online, especially due to latency. I agree with that, Marlon. That is always difficult. That was one of the things our league struggled with, was how to make pin meters and kicking out fair, because some people couldn't button mash. I was really good at it, so I could always figure out a way to kick out, but other people weren't so good at it. Other people are better at the stopping it, like it's the NBA, like shooting.
Yeah.
I don't know what to call it, but like the shooting meter, exactly the
like
same.
The shot stick or whatever. Like, yeah.
Yeah. Shout out to Cam, KC Classic 7, my brother in the chat. What's going on, Cam? He said no HUD meters. Cam is a big sim guy when it comes to football video games and sports games as well. He was my competition for years. But yeah, I agree. No HUD meters in there.
Yeah.
6 said I agree with the delay for the kickout meter in later online games would sometimes end a match before it even began. Obi-Wan said I turned off HUD meter so that everything is surprising. And 6 said I also kind of missed the L2 for strike reversals and R2. My man's sick. I definitely have that in here in a later thing, but we could jump to it now. How do you feel about...
Before we do, I'll just say that, you know, I know that the pin meter that was introduced, I mean, the pin meter that was introduced in this version of the game, 2010, is pretty much the one that has been in the game up to 2K20. And I love the pin meter. I do. I like the blind button mashing. For me, I just was never a big fan of, because I want to see what my progress is. Like, how well is this button mashing doing towards me being able to kick out? So I like the meter we're holding the button and trying to stop it within that target zone, no matter how big or small it was. Because even when it was tiny and it was hard as fuck, I still felt that I still had a chance, as slight as it was. And being able to kick out in those moments, to me, were just like, fuck, like, yeah, fuck yeah, I'm still in this. Like, I just love that. And for me, I just never got that from the blind button mashing. But, you know, different tastes. I just want to throw it out.
I agree with you. I prefer the other way for a... How do I want to put this, Brian? I prefer a more difficult game for myself when it comes to wrestling, because I played it for so long and I feel like an expert. Yeah. I feel like these games aren't hard anymore, even when they're on Legend at these points now. Like, certain games, it was like, okay, it's a little tougher, but after you get it once or twice, you're like, all right, I got this, bro. This is nothing.
No, I agree.
So with the kickout meter, though, I felt so many people were so good at it eventually, even in the little one. Brian, I'm telling you, our league matches from when we had a league, bro. I know people are probably tired of hearing about this, but dude, I can show you cats who were kicking out of the little bar every single time. Like, they were that good at the game, bro. Like, they were like, oh, it's just like the NBA 2K meter. Look, bro, stop. Like, they would rarely miss it. Like, you'd have to just pen them over and over to annoy them so that they would just let you win. It's like, bro, come on. Seriously, man?
Hey, they got good at it. That's skill. That's skillful.
Nah, bro, listen, when you get hit with like 20 finishers, it should be done. So put that
yeah, that's true. I mean, 20, yeah. I mean, come on. Yeah,
note to self, bro. Like I'm saying, you can go back and watch. I probably lost some of those matches where I'm like, oh, come on, dude. You're not kicking out of all this. There's no way. No way. Yeah, so... Okay. Just reading that. So Sick went back to the L2 for strike reversals, R2 for this. He brought up this point too. He said you really had to strategize to get a feel for what style of play your opponent was going to do to win the match. And I think that all falls under the HUD meters, the reversals in the game. This is kind of like the centerpiece for like all of this, for how you make a good wrestling game, the strategy behind it and everything else. What did you think of the reversals going to one button?
Well, I'm the reason that they went to one button. So,
oh damn!
I'm to blame, I guess, for this. So
Wait, can
since
I
we're
ask a
talking
question
about,
before you get into it? Because I always had a theory on why you guys went to one button.
yeah, go ahead.
So was it to add for more maneuvers or whatever, like to add more functionality, like to free up a button? Because you were basically having two buttons that do the exact same thing being used, and you're like, well, we could use this for moves, or we could use this for like, you know, the user control moves where you put someone on your shoulders or flip them to a power bomb.
I guess that was a good side effect of it, but that wasn't why I made the change. I did it for simplicity, to try to make the game a little easier. Again, going back to tutorials and trying to get new users involved, like it was done to make the game a little bit more inviting to people who maybe not have been playing the game up until this point. And that was it. I know it's a divisive thing, and even myself, I stand by the decision. I do. I mean, people can be mad at me for that if they want, but it is a thing where, while I'm glad that we went that route, I'm at a point. It's almost like you come full circle because of because prior to this change, not only was our game, but like Day of Reckoning, No Mercy, any kind of wrestling game of note had the 2-button reversal with strikes or attacks and grapples. And then we switched to the 1. And like I said, I liked the change at the time. But now, playing these older games, it's like, man, I kind of want that back. You know what I mean? Because like you said, I mean, you kind of get to a point where once you get good at just reversing, period, I mean, it makes the game a little bit too easy, and yeah. So in whatever thing that I work on in the future, that is something that I have in the forefront of my mind about potentially bringing back the 2-button reversal. Not saying it's gonna happen, but it's something that I definitely have been thinking about. But yeah, I was the one that made the change from the 2-button to the 1, and to kind of go on to that, like this was the first game that I worked on where I really put, for better or worse, we'll find out, my stamp on things as far as gameplay is concerned, and it transitions into 11 as well. So I'll just say that and have you take the floor again.
No, we're gonna power through some of these, but like I said, you didn't create all the monsters either with like the reversal buttons. Listen, bro, I remember later games it would just be, I got the controller in my hand, you would just hear, I'm like, bro, you don't even know when I'm about to do this move, and it would create people stalling, like waiting to do the move. You're like, all right, he's pressing it every like 2 seconds. You can hear it in the background. Catch it now. It just got to the point to where it got like really bad and repetitive. Sick. I'm jumping all around because people were commenting while you were discussing that he put after the 3rd or 5th kick out after a finisher with all gray body and health. Come on, man. And he put shout out to my former tag partner in XGW, Killer Kev. He was the kick out king of XGW. That's exactly who I was talking about, Sick, when I was talking about people kicking out with that. He plays for the NBA. He plays for the NBA 2K League now. He's on Lakers Gaming, so I'm happy for him. He's my former 2K teammate.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Lakers.
Yeah. I know that's your squad, so.
Hell yeah.
Cam, KC Classic, is in here. He said the problem wasn't the kickout meter online. It was the fact that the meter's in the same spot every time at the same speed after every finisher. So the meter would never change speeds based on your health, and then it would always be in that like same spot, so you knew right where you had to hit the money spot. No pun intended, Val Venus. But yeah. Yeah,
that sounds like a definite bug, because that definitely wasn't the case when you're playing offline. I know that the speed of the meter definitely is dependent upon the health of the person being pinned.
Yeah. I think they did it online to make up for the latency.
Yeah.
He said, could the controller schemes be an option in future games, both offline and online?
What's that?
I think Six asking, could you ever change the controller schemes for video games offline and online?
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, you can do that. That's possible.
Okay. What's going on, Entertain 45? What's good, man? Glad you could join us. Bryan, we're just going to kind of run through some of these other things real quick and give your quick thoughts on it. I put body damage, chest turns red in this game. I thought that was a really nice thing that I don't know why it just stuck around for a year.
No, that's always been in the game.
No, but dude, this was the year where like their chest turned purple, bro, like Ring of Honor style.
Oh, you're talking about? Oh, you mean okay? I thought you were talking about the limb damage meter. You're talking about the actual wrestler's chest.
Yes.
Yeah, the damage.
I don't even think this one had the damage meter. I think you watched like how your opponent's body looked, and you were like, "All right, he looks worn down. Like I can hit him with the finisher now."
It was there, but I think it would only come up if you had like the durability ability where you could like, heal a certain part of your body.
Yep.
Like once you did that, you would see the limb damage meter and you could see like the healing taking place. Yeah, it was always there. But like you said, going back to the kind of minimal HUD, we did our best to try to just present, HUD elements when the player needed to see them.
Yes. What else do I have here? Royal Rumble, revamped and better presentation. The Royal Rumble became super stale at this point, and you guys revamped it, and I thought it was really nice timing and touch when we were still getting different Royal Rumble entrances and stuff. I like that you faced the camera towards the entrance when we got to see entrances for once. Like, you saw some people would just run down to the ring, other people would stop for a second and be like, yeah, check me out real quick. I thought it was really good, and I love the little cutscenes that you guys added in. The final three, and everybody's looking around at each other like, all right. You knew it got real, man. Sometimes it would set people up to be in a better position, though, too. I remember that. I'm like, yo, come on, bro. He's about to get eliminated. It does the little cutscene to where the three of you are in the middle now, and I'm like, son of a bitch. Come on. So those were always fun, and then the final two had the cutscene, too, where they look at the sign. Oh, everybody's got to point at the damn sign. And I thought that was really good.
Oh, well, I'm glad you liked it. This was something that I don't want it to. It kind of seems like I'm taking like I take credit for the things that I've worked on and that I've done, and I also will readily admit the things that I did that people didn't like. And again, it's not so much me saying, oh, I did this. I mean, it was three of us working on this game, Dan, Justin, and myself. So, it was a small crew. But the Royal Rumble match was something that, because again, I was the gameplay guy, so the Royal Rumble match was something that I was in charge of. Yuke's put together the initial design, and just to let everybody know how the designs worked when it came to THQ and Yuke's. Before anything was implemented, once the feature set was determined. Corey would get a meeting together, Corey and myself, Justin. Well, Justin was usually in his own separate meeting because he's like story mode. Dan, and we talked to, our counterparts at Yuke's teleconference meeting, and we basically just decide, okay, well, who's in charge of designing which feature? And so, because again, there was only we were pretty much short-staffed. A lot of times, we say, hey, I'll do this. I'll design gameplay, I'll design the championship scramble, I'll do this. And then Yuke's like, okay, well, we'll design this, that, and the other. And the way that it works is that once the designs are written, they're then shared with each other. So in the case of the Royal Rumble match, they wanted to take the first crack at designing this match. They designed it, they sent it to me, I review it, I give my feedback, and it goes back and forth for about, anywhere from a week to 2 weeks until the design is formulated. And it works the same way. When we design something, we send it to them. They give us their feedback, back and forth. And then it's like, okay, boom, we're in agreement. Let's mocap. Let's start, implementing these things. So the Royal Rumble match was something that Yuke's had. They wanted to design it. So they put their design together. They sent it to me. I went through it. It was like one of the best parts of my job. I love reviewing designs. I gave my feedback. The mini games, I was a big proponent of having different mini games based off of the situation that you're trying to eliminate somebody, because I really wanted to kind of really break free of just a standard button mashing to get rid of someone. So I was like, once we agreed that it was the corner, the rope, the bottom rope where the guy's on the apron, you kind of shove them out. I kind of pushed them to kind of say, hey, is there any way we can just have different mechanics for each one of these situations? And oh yeah, we can do that. So they provided, some examples and like, okay, cool, this is dope. Let's run with this. The ability to eliminate multiple people if you have like a finisher was something that I suggested. The cutscenes that you mentioned, like when there's the final 3 and the final 2, were things that I had presented to them as ways to kind of beef up the presentation. So that's kind of how the whole match came about, and it was fun to work on this. The entrances, like having seeing the rest of the new guys coming into the match and showing a bit of their entrance before they come into the ring was something that we both, Yuke and THQ, were really keen on doing. And I thought that, especially considering how the Royal Rumble match was prior to this revamp, I'm proud of it, and this is where we kind of picked up, off of a SmackDown versus Raw 09, where we took the tag team match, a match that had been woefully ignored for years, and we kind of gave that the revamp treatment. And when we came into 2010, we were like, well, what match that we have in the game that hasn't basically been given the love throughout the course of this franchise history? And the Rumble, being the fact that it's one of the WWE's Big Four, was an easy match to nominate for that revamp, and that's kind of how this match came about.
Yeah, I got Road to WrestleMania down. I'm just going to use this as a chance to go check out Justin Leeper. He's playing through all of these right now. So if you guys want to check out his channel, give him a subscribe. I'm telling you, the dude worked on him, so he's giving you all the commentary, the little things that were going on in the background for them, and he gives you some cool tidbits on where he came up with some of the ideas. Check out those Road to WrestleManias. We had Edge, HBK. You had a brand warfare one with Cena and Triple H. Mickey James was on one of these. They had a women's Royal Rumble before it was even cool. Remember that?
Hell yeah.
Legacy, and they had one for Cause as well in this one. I'm just going to kind of jump around, Brian. I don't know if you want to give some quick one-word answers so we can move on to 2011, because I know we're going to be talking about that one too for a minute. The 3D in the Creation Suite, the 3D things onto... We finally had like the creation points because everything went to 3D.
Right.
I thought that was something that was really cool. I'm pretty sure you were part of that. I think I remember reading some stuff from you saying that was your idea to upgrade some of the stuff that was in there.
I was. The creative superstar kind of overhaul it fell within my responsibilities. Again, working with Yuke's with this, but yeah, the decision was made to get away from the painted 2D parts and to try to have as many 3D parts as possible, with the goal being that we wanted, whatever you created and create a superstar to look. I mean, we didn't achieve it, but the goal was to try to have whatever you create look on par with the default roster. I think we eventually got there. It took us years, but that was the mindset. So I worked with Yuke on this feature, picking out the parts to implement. The face templates were all based off of wrestlers that I was a fan of. Phase 2 for example, was that's Bryan Danielson's face. Now Daniel Bryan, because I'm a huge Bryan Danielson fan. Anybody who's been following me for years knows that. The screen pose option, a small thing, but it's remained in the game to this day. Being able to select a pose for your CAS for the versus screen was something that I proposed. It was. I think for that first kind of go at it of adding all these new 3D parts was something that I think it was a step up. I'm not going to say we hit a home run, but maybe I'm not the biggest baseball fan. What's Woody?
You can use whatever sports metaphor you want.
Yeah.
Touchdown.
But I thought it was a very respectable effort. But yeah.
No, I thought you guys did good with it. The paint tool, I thought paint tool was great for creators like Dre41. He was on Xbox at the time, but
shout out to Dre41. Yeah,
that's my boy, man. Dre41. I watch a lot of his content. He does great car creations. I remember he used to be like the Attitude Era guy. Like if you wanted anybody from the Attitude Era, dude had it on lock. Like the files were there. Like I got you. You want Al Snow? You want Draws? You want Draws and LOD? I got you.
Yeah. I downloaded a lot of his creative superstars.
Casey Classic Row RBI. All right, we got the sports analogies.
Yeah, there you go. RBI.
Sick ass, whose idea was it to implement weight detection in the games? One of the best ideas, in my opinion. Nobody wants to see Hornswoggle body slam Big Show.
That was probably, I think that came from Yuke's. That was probably Yuke's idea.
Yeah, just to create realism in the matches.
Realism, yeah.
Shout out to Obi-Wan. He put Justin Leaper's channel in there, so I appreciate you being a mod, Obi-Wan, so that you could bust in the links like that. Thank you, good sir. Let me see what else we had in here. We had diving finishers and create a finisher.
Yep.
That was good stuff. I mean, you guys know what you could do with that, basically. It was still the same formula, but I thought it was nice to add diving finishers in so you could create somebody like Wink Face Ricochet from PWG, make some of his sweet moves. I was a PWG guy a little bit back then, so.
PWG is my shit, man. I used to go. I've probably gone to like 30 or 40 PWG events.
Life goals, man. Are they still doing them in those like little places? Like they're just such a niche. Like
no, they changed venues. The reason I was able to go so often was like, so the venue in Reseda was literally, I don't know, 10-minute drive from where I lived at the time. So anytime they had a show, I just drive down there and check one out. But now they closed down the Reseda venue, and now they're doing shows in downtown LA. And I have not been to one of those because I fucking hate driving downtown LA.
Listen, bro, I listened to Ryan Satin talk about LA traffic one time on one of his podcasts, and I was just dying laughing. He's like, bro, if it's 10 minutes for you, it's like 45 minutes in LA. Like, I was like,
yeah, he ain't lying,
bro. I don't think I can do it, man. I was like, I hope transportation's good out there, but I never hear anything about like LA transportation. Like, is it nice?
No, but there. If you want to go to downtown, you can take our subway. The subway won't take you many places in SoCal, but it'll take you to the heart of downtown LA. So there's that.
All right, Brian. Let me get to these last three things that I want to bring up real quick here. Community creations. I thought that was a really dope feature set that we had in here. So cool to just be able to download like a Muda. I can't create Muda unless somebody gives me the exact formula on how to do it. So it was nice to just download a guide. I'm like, sweet, I got some attires. We're good to go. Entrance is set. Cool. I really like what you guys did with that. Create a story.
That was Corey.
Create a story, bro. Whose idea was that? Because that person was a genius. Like,
I don't know who's. Well, I'll give him credit because I don't know if he came up with the idea, but he was definitely the designer for it. This was I forgot about John. This was John. I don't want to say his last name, John D, but he was a designer on the team as well. I said there was three of us. I totally forgot about John, but he had just joined the team for the development of this game, and he was put in charge of story designer. And I mean, yeah, he did a killer job. I'm not sure if he wrote the design or if it was a situation where Yuke put the design together and then, he gave feedback. But whatever happened, like he was the one on our side that was in charge of story designer. So that was John's, that was his area of the game.
I think it just added a lot of life to the game afterwards. Like you play through all the Road to WrestleManias, dude. And I just remember people would have like ridiculous storylines like Jim Ross and the Bella Twins, like Jim Ross on the couch like, you girls need to do some dirty dancing now, get out to the ring, you guys got a match. Like if JR was the general manager or whatever, people came up with some really cool ones. I used to always try and make it, there were so many WWE versus TNA back then. Like,
I know.
Abyss has shown up here in WWE, and then it'll be in the Impact Zone. Look out, it's Kane. People would get wild with it, man.
Yeah, man, I downloaded my fair share for this game, and yeah, you're right. There were a lot of like TNA invasion stories and all that kind of stuff. Good shit. Yeah, it was such good shit.
Marlon just wrote, community creations was revolutionary. Some of us older fans with jobs and families may not be playing these games anymore if not for the lifesaver of community creations. That is a big fact, Marlon. That it just, all these things extended the life of the game, and really this game is more so what you create out of it, like what you want out of it. And that's one of the beauties of wrestling games, I think that was the beauty of the THQ Yuke's era. They created like, dude, make this what you want it to be.
Yeah, so that was it.
My last question, Brian, on this game. SVR Online. What happened? Why did it never happen? Was this the money woes began here, or is this just the functionality never worked? Because if you guys search, shout out to Andy Badwool, the guy who I was talking about last week, who did all the Shawn Michaels Undertaker recreation videos using, I think, SVR10, 09, and 11. He did all these videos for us. So if you guys get a chance, check out Andy Badwool's channel and look these up. He has the trailer for SVR Online still on his thing, like he uploaded it. He runs Smackdown Hotel too. So what happened?
Yeah, shout out to him. Shout out to him. He's good. He's good people.
He commented on the last video like, dude, you guys talked about one of my videos. And I thought it was the coolest thing that he messaged me. I was like, oh, that was dope, bro. So much love to him. But online looked great, bro. Like, it looked like you guys were gonna have it set up similar to how like the park is in NBA. Like, there was a guy, you walk up and talk to him a little bit, and then it was like, oh, okay, let's do a match.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I had forgotten it, until you sent me that trailer, because I'd never even seen that trailer. I had totally forgotten about that project.
I think that came out at E3 with the game.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right,
I think they said it would be released later after the game came out, but
yeah, there were a bunch of projects that were in some form of development, whether usually pre-production, because not a lot of them went to actual, production. And I guess that was one of them. And the only thing that I can remember is that I remember they wanted to do, and I say they, meaning the upper brass, they wanted to do a WWE game that was basically like, just an online PC version similar to the console. But from what I remember, because like looking at that trailer, it didn't seem that way. But from what I remember, that they wanted it for Korea, for South Korea, because of how much they do the, those online, MMOs or whatever. Like they wanted to try to get some of that MMO money and have it released overseas in Korea. I believe that's what this was. Because that's the only thing I can think of. Because, these side products that will pop up, like, us designers would hear about them. Sometimes we would see them. But we were so focused on what we were doing. And honestly, most of the time, we just kind of figured that none of these things were going to see the light of day anyway. So why spend that much time on it? And I guess this was one of them. When I was at THQ, there were 5 or 6 games that new additions to the not to the mainline franchise, but WWE Games that were in some form of development by all these various studios. Whether there was one, I remember seeing artwork for one where it was they took the wrestlers like the Undertaker, John Cena, and it was almost like an All Stars type game, but the fighting didn't take place in a ring. It was what's that Nintendo game that everybody loves with the the fighting game that Nintendo does, where, oh man,
what, Brawlers, Smashers,
Smash Brothers.
Yeah, Smash.
Is that what it's called? Mm-hmm. Smash Brothers. Yeah, there was one studio that was trying. I think it was the studio that ended up developing the Blob for THQ. Like they were putting together a Smash Brothers type game featuring the WWE superstars and like having them, like Undertaker would have these mystical powers and all this kind of stuff, and it was very stylized and kind of cartoony, the way that the characters were going to look. So yeah, this online game was just one of those things that was bandied about and then just kind of just fell to the wayside.
Yeah, and there's a lot of projects like that. I'm sure we'll get into the U-Draw disaster that eventually happens with everything. And you just bring it up whenever you remember it, like really sinking into your head, Brian, about any of that, if it did come to your attention at any point. Yeah. But real quick, before we transition into SVR11, you know what time it is, folks. It's time to talk about clipping things out. Let's talk about Manscaped real quick. Manscaped, guys, can save your dating life. If you guys need a tool for your family jewels, Manscaped's the way to go. You guys can check it out. One of my favorite features on it, that little light, man. You can hear the buzzing right now for people on the audio podcast form of this. This little light, man, let's just say you're shaving in the dark, we'll just say. This little light can help you out. These things are powerful. They hold a great charge, and the Lawnmower 3.0 is designed for men's grooming, but females can use it too. Give it as a gift. You can probably give one of these bad boys to a significant other, Maybe Pops needs it. You never know. Maybe Mama needs it. Maybe Mama's got a mustache. I don't know. But you have to figure out a way to get this to someone. And you guys can get a great bundle by using the code EPW Show and save yourselves 20% off of Manscaped's products. They even have things like the ball deodorant. You know, if you sweat under your arms, you know your balls are sweaty, bros. So make sure you guys put some ball deodorant on as well. They've got some great things that they offer on the site, though. So make sure you guys check it out. They have traveling bags. You can get boxers, t-shirts. Check out manscaped.com. Use the promo code EPW Show. It's all in the description below. Also, Powerslam.tv. I got to show some love to my brothers, Powerslam.tv. They are offering free indie wrestling. You get your first month for free on me. You can see some of the people who you will see later on in WWE, AEW, New Japan, all performing on Powerslam.tv. So use the code EPW Show. You guys can watch some free indie wrestling. And shout out to my good friends at Everything College Basketball. These guys have been working real hard still. I know that the college basketball season is out, but Josh Burton does an excellent job bringing you all the latest in college basketball. There's still people being signed, people deciding what schools they're going to. So make sure you guys check out Everything College Basketball. Woo! B.
Good job, brother. Good job.
You know how it goes.
Hey, I know you want to go to 11, but there were some things that I wanted to touch on just real quick with 10 that I feel just don't get talked about that much when it comes to this game. Just real quick. I got to get my shit in before I get thrashed on 11.
Okay.
All right. So in terms of gameplay, like in 2010, we brought back the 4 strong grapples because we got a lot of feedback about fans just wanted to get more of those moves, slots back into the game. So those made a return. Strong strikes became a part of the base moveset. In 2009, they were an ability, but with this one, I made the decision to just incorporate them within everybody's moveset. Pullback attacks were implemented in this year's game. I stole this from Day of Reckoning. The kick reversal position was implemented in this year's game as well, where somebody does a gut kick, you can catch the leg and then do a strike or a grapple. I was inspired by TNA's video game. The one thing that I loved about their game was that they had a dedicated button for initiating a submission, and I took that and incorporated that into our game. Instead of having submissions just be a part of the regular grapple moveset, I made the decision to basically take them out and slot them to the R3 button, so that whenever you wanted to do a submission, you can basically choose when you want to try to tap somebody out by clicking R3 in any given situation. The ground grapples, I divided the ground grapples into individual supine and prone positions, face up, face down, giving players different moves for each one of those positions. I also asked Yuke to include the side position. And the apron. This was the game. And it's like such a common sense thing to do, but it hadn't been done until I asked Yuke to do it. But the apron became an attack position in this year's game. Because prior to this, you couldn't go onto the apron and walk along the apron, do springboards from the apron. You couldn't do any of that stuff. Grapples from the apron. All of that was added in this year's game. And that's one thing that I think, kind of gets, like I said, it's not the biggest thing in the world, but it's one of those things that just become a part of what the game is to this day. I mean, we wouldn't be able to have springboard finishers were it not for being able to, do attacks on the apron.
Oh, time out. Hell no, that shit mattered, bro. I forgot all about that. See, I got to be a little more appreciative because you had all that stuff in, like, the N64 games, but, like, you missed that shit a little bit. Like, that would be a lot of the things we would bring up, like, hey, can we get springboard attacks? How come I can't control Rey Mysterio after the 619 if I want him to do a frog splash or just he would do the fall splash, or you wanted him to maybe do the Hurricanrana into the pin. You had lots of options for that stuff. That stuff matters, bro. So to me, that was really dope stuff that you added. I think Sick had a question too that we'll just slot in here. Sick said, I was always curious as to what you guys based the overall ratings for Superstars on. I remember one year The Miz was pissed that half the other female wrestlers in the game were higher than him. Yeah, I think that was 2009 when Miz was still rocking the shorts with the the chick
magnet.
Yes, dude. So bad but so good.
Yeah. I wasn't doing the overalls at this point. That was what the overalls were being decided by Yuke's and probably with Corey's input. I got involved with the overalls, I want to say maybe around WWE, maybe 12 or 13, and then 14, and then on the rest since then. But at this point in the game, the overalls, I wasn't really involved in any of that stuff.
Do they matter, Bryan, in the sense of playing these old games?
Not really.
I never felt that way either. I was just kind of like, if you got someone who's at 82, you should be all right for the most part. I mean, sometimes you go up against someone who's souped up like Orton, you're like, bro, I don't know if I have a chance if this person's semi-skilled. He should be.
Honestly, the only attributes at this point in time, and even honestly with the 2K stuff, the only attributes that really matter are, your momentum, because it generates how quickly you can get your finisher. Any kind of strength attribute determines, how powerful your strikes and grapples are. And, anything that's defensive related. Barring that, I mean, and if you're really good at the game, that shit really don't matter. I can, because I'm really good. I mean, I not to toot my own horn, but I'm good at these games. I mean, I could take who was a Santino and beat Undertaker, no problem at all.
Yo, what was it? So I guess if the stats didn't matter, you guys would never think of this, but would you guys ever have thought of like updating people online? Like, let's just say, you get that year where Kofi Kingston recently had a big push. Kofi's usually in the 82, 84 range. I think by the end of last year, Kofi should have been a 90.
Yeah.
So
I know that at THQ we definitely discussed that, especially once we got online as far as DLC is concerned and patches and all that kind of stuff. I know I mentioned it to Corey. I'm sure other designers had mentioned it. It's just one of those things that just never bore fruit. It's because everybody was like, well, who's gonna do it? One of the designers here, Yuke's, and well, how much is it gonna cost to kind of update it? So it was one of those things that I always thought was just a gimme, where it's like, hey, like what it'd be nice just frequently, maybe every 4 or 5 months, just kind of see what is happening on programming, and send out an update to adjust the attributes accordingly. But it never got the green light. I mean, I had to wait I don't know how many games before the DLC Moose stuff got in there. So sometimes you get something that you want, and a lot of times you don't.
Yeah, and there was something I was gonna say to online to what you had brought up before. What were you just talking about right before this, Bryan? Jog my memory. We were talking about Santino beating somebody, like.
Oh yeah. About some of the stats carrying more weight than the others, as far as power stats, momentum, and defensive stats.
It hit my brain. Online, when people edit their stats, always figure out a way to show it for people too. Another league problem we used to have when people would cheat. We're like, oh, come show me your stats, bro. Oh, I already backed out. I'm like, nah, bro, you cheated. I know you did. There ain't no way Cody Rhodes' momentum was going that fast. So that's just
we addressed that, didn't we? In one of these games coming up, where we added that option where you had to play with base. But I guess if you're, where you basically can't, when you're playing online, there was an option where you can choose to play with, customized wrestlers or just the default superstars on the roster without any kind of modifications to their stats.
Sick, leave me alone, bro. Sick wrote he was owning people in our league with Kalisto in 2016, so he's like, those stats don't matter. But we'll move into 2011, and you know what? That was a perfect point that we were talking about with the attributes. Fan access. You guys gave us the ability to change people's attributes if we wanted to, so I think that was your fix for that. Like, hey, how come you guys didn't add that in? Boom, you get it here with fan access. These games were a lot of let's fix what we did last year. So a lot of the stuff that we were just talking about is going to probably kind of come back in and register with a lot of people and resonate with them. Roster selection screen. You guys went to the Mortal Kombat style selection screen. What was the purpose of that? Just a different look and feel? Let's just switch it up?
Yeah. We always try to, whether it comes across that way or not. But we're always trying to, differentiate, one game from the next. And, yeah, this is just, one area where we thought, what can we do to kind of make it a little bit more lively, have those animated, uh, those motions on the Superstar Select screen. I thought they looked pretty good too. Not having played 11 in a while, I thought they still kind of hold up. Depending on the Superstar you select.
It looked dope, and you didn't have to kind of just like go through the names. You guys eventually like get really good with like go to the J's. Boo-doo-doo, I'm done with this. Like in 3 button steps, you could just put people where you wanted them. But I like seeing everybody that's on there. Like, all right, who can like people would go through. Sometimes you're like, bro, just pick somebody. I'm thinking Jimmy Snuka. Hold on, let me go back to Xavier Woods real quick. It's like, dude, just pick somebody. Pick somebody. Yeah. You know who it is. You know who's in there. But people would mess around. And big shout out, I had to put this in here for Casey Classic in the chat. Big Jack Swagger fan back in the day when he was Toto Americano in the game. I don't know who thought of that. But I loved it.
That must have been Justin.
Yeah,
because that character came from Road to WrestleMania, so that was a Justin Leeper creation.
Yeah, you got some really dope alternate attires, and hopefully Justin's not mad that we're spoiling some of the stuff he'll end up having to talk about soon. But my brother used to use him all the time. He was like, "Yeah, this is a real luchador right here, bro." Swagger bomb.
Yeah.
So I know a lot of people aren't Jake Hager fans. I love Jake Hager. I thought he was always a really dope wrestler and never really given a chance to shine. Like, I know he messed up with the one push he had with the We the People, because I wasn't feeling that when I first saw that. I was like, yo, what is this? Uncle Zebekiah, too, coming out with them? Little different.
Yeah, that was a little too alt-righty for me.
Yeah, for sure. But he ended up messing that up because I went to WrestleMania 29. I remember he got busted. I think he had just tweeted out about Higher and Higher, like the song. Like, he was like, check what I'm listening to. And then he got busted with the weed.
That's so silly, though. That's so silly. I mean, that's WWE for you. I mean, it's not like he was doing lines off a hooker's ass. You know what I mean? He's smoking some weed. And it's like whatever.
And he don't need to do that. His wife is bad as hell. Trust.
She is. Yeah.
Trust.
I can't say that I ever loved Jack Swagger, but I definitely never disliked him. I thought, he was always a good talent and just was never really, I mean, like a lot of guys in WWE, not to get on a tangent, but just wasn't really given, very good creative. But I think in the ring, I think he's good. I think he's better than good, actually. He's slightly, above average. I'm looking forward to him and Moxley tomorrow. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, empty arena match. He was really good, dude, in ECW. I just remember him putting on great matches with, like, Matt Hardy. He had
Christian.
He had 1 or 2 in the beginning, and then after that, he was off to the races. Like, that kid got it, man. So
yeah, he's a good talent.
We talked about one button reversal, so I'll skip that.
Yeah.
6 wrestlers online. You guys stepped up online a little bit here, allowing us to have 6 players for once. And you added the online Royal Rumble, which we went crazy with. Like, we used to have so many people in the chat, and they were just like, come on, man, there's 6 of us, man. We all just want to, play a match. And I'm like, well, 2 people got to sit out. I'm like, I don't know what you want me to tell you. And, on PlayStation, PS3, we only 4 people in the chat. Hard times, baby, if you were PS3 owner. Hard times. It wasn't a party chat. It was like sitting at your family coffee table talking. I'm like, all right, we're out of here. So this was tough, man, but I thought the online Royal Rumble was a really dope feature, and I kind of missed it later in the later games that we'll talk about eventually. Like, I don't know why it disappeared, but online Royal Rumble was dope.
Yeah, I mean, so my only experience playing it was, when it was in, QA. I know that it was that was a problematic feature for this year's game, because that thing just would not. It just was not working for a long stretch of time. So I'm glad to hear that the end result of it, that you had better times with it than not. But I know that that was definitely a struggle to get that thing stable and working without constant, because it would constantly desync back when it was in the testing phase.
I think 2010 was the beginning of desyncing, to where you'd be playing a match and you were like, how am I playing the AI now? And then 2 people would be playing different matches. I don't know how that would happen. Maybe it was GameSpy's fault. I have no idea, but it would be very different as far as online goes. But I thought that was a fun aspect that you guys put in there just for people goofing around with their friends and stuff like that. We would never dare try and do that. We always did like tournaments for who would go to our WrestleMania. We would never try and do like an online Rumble. We're like, hell no, bro, not happening.
I'm glad you dug it.
Yeah. Now I have GM mode replacement on the side here. Universe mode. Universe mode is introduced. I think that this was a great idea, Brian. But here's the weird thing: in the first year of introduction to it, it was like linked to everything. So your universe mode was the entire game. Whatever happened with them, that's how you would build people up. What did you think of this overall? Like, did you like it being connected to everything, or did you like once it got split?
Well, I'm biased with this because, this was the first year that universe mode was in the game. My friend, my brother, Dan Ryan, designed this mode, and I thought he was the perfect guy to work on this feature because Dan he's got a little bit of Rain Man in him when it comes to numbers and probabilities and things of that nature. So he was a perfect choice to lead the design effort on this, and I dug it. And the thing is that you say that it was integrated into the whole game, but you could easily turn it off and on by clicking the right stick. So, for me, I thought that was a nice, what's the word I'm looking for? A nice balance to it. Like if you wanted to have Universe on the entire time you're playing, you can. If you wanted to turn it off for any reason, you click the R3 and you don't have to worry about it. I did, having gone through it again, because like I said, I haven't played 11 in a long time. Title matches were missed. I realized that because I remember, because of the universe and how it was implemented in this game, I think you could not do title matches in exhibition. They could only be done through universe. And in hindsight, that sucks. I'm sure I probably said something at the time, but Dan was doing Dan things, so it is what it was. But I thought for a first effort, I thought it came out really good. So yeah.
Yeah, once you said Dan, I remember I think they had an interview with him, like a little mini trailer, like, hey, this is the new universe mode. This is what we wanted to do with it. I just remember him doing like the background voiceover, showing like the stuff happening. So that was really dope. Obi-Wan definitely came from my head too. He said you had an option to turn it off, so Obi-Wan knew. He said at the exact same time you did. Click the right stick to turn it on and off. I was just pointing out that I didn't know if people liked the integration with it. Like, did you like it being with the exhibition and everything else? Or did you prefer universe mode as a standalone mode? Was what I was looking for. Yeah,
I like the integration. I thought it was a much more creative design choice than just having it be, its own, like, basically the way it is now. I thought it was very clever, and I thought that the way that it was implemented, how it was interwoven through the exhibition experience was, I thought it was cool. I thought it was, like I said, I'm big on, creative ideas and, just things like outside the box. So, and I kind of feel that this version of Universe did that much more so than like later iterations of it.
Yes. AR has a question for you, Brian.
Yes,
AR
sir.
says, hey, Brian, I played SVR or 2011, recently. I played it on Legendary and I noticed no one ever kicked out of a finisher. Even so, I was curious about if there were ever complaints about the game being too easy.
I definitely have received feedback about the game being easy. I don't remember which game. I mean, I'm not, if it was this one or any other game. I kind of, just me playing it recently, I found it easy, but I kind of find them all easy, which, ended up being my thing. That's how the streak came around. We'll get to that later. But I mean, I've heard those complaints or that feedback about it, but I can't remember if it was specifically for this game or if it was, 12, 10, 9. But, I have heard those issues. But the whole thing about, the guys not being able to kick out of finishers, that's new to me. I haven't experienced that.
Mm. Yeah, I don't remember any issues with this one. I think 13 had some in it. I remember Aubrey was the community manager when the people were having like some issues with it. And I remember he gave some feedback that some people didn't like, and I think he was under a lot of stress.
Because what was a game where like there weren't any 2 counts?
That was 13. People kicked
That
out
was
at
13.
1, or it was just a 3 count. You're like, what the
A 3
hell was
count.
that? Like
Yeah.
off of a clothesline, people were getting pinned.
That's what I thought.
It was wild, but it was what it was. Let's talk, and I'm seeing a lot of questions from other people in here. I think Marlon brought it up. Obi-Wan has a lot of questions about it. Let's talk about the Havoc physics engine, Brian.
Yeah.
This shit was dope, bro. Like, that's all I can say about it. You guys had the tables and ladders. One of my favorite things was in a ladder match, you could always push the ladder over, people would fall. It was fun.
Yeah.
It was cool. But once you could push the ladder over and people would fall onto the ropes, I was like, oh shit. Like, even to this day, I remember people could just put that game in and people would fall out the ring like, oh damn, this is a real Money in the Bank, dog. People, he fell out. It's time to climb. And people would set it up, go up. It was good, man. We used to have a lot of fun with this one. So whose idea was it to revamp the engine, and what was the feedback like for the revamped engine? Because it seems like a lot of people love this about SVR11.
You know, so I worked on this. I was the designer for the TLC, all the object improvements, all this stuff. Who came up with the idea to incorporate the Havoc physics? That was, you know, I'm sure that was Corey and, you know, some of the other bigwigs at Yuke's making that determination. But I was one that was put in charge on the creative side of this. And I kind of feel, I mean, the people in the chat, correct me if I'm wrong, but I kind of feel that this game has aged a lot better. And I kind of feel that it's more fondly remembered than when it came out. Because I remember when it came out, it didn't get bad reviews. It got good reviews. They weren't like, you know, stellar or glowing.
8 out of
but
10
they were
from
good.
IGN.
Yeah, they were good. But I kind of feel that over time, this game is kind of is more fondly remembered because of those physics and how they were incorporated into matches involving objects and weapons and the environment. And like I said, you know, earlier, like I hadn't played this game in a long time, but I know that making this and, you know, being on the creative side of working with Yuke's on the TLC match and just how all these figures were gonna you know interplay with one another was probably outside of maybe 2K14 was the most enjoyable time that I had working on the franchise, because it was just myself working with the designers at Yuke's, and I remember sitting in their office in Yokohama. Myself, and then Shahaya, who is now my coworker, he's a creative director on Yuke's side, and then my homeboy Yamamori-san, who's pretty much he's me over there at Yuke's, and we would just sit in a room and just basically formulate any sort of possible situation in which a fall occurs and an object is nearby, and basically ensuring that if a guy's on top of a ladder and they're fighting, and there's a table on one side, and, you know, we have these moves where you can, you know, do a grapple off of the ladder, you know, and I said, okay, well, if this happens, you've got a table here. We got to make sure that wherever they fall, it's got to be in the direction of that table. Otherwise, it's like a wasted moment. And that's one instance, you know, of, you know, having a table ringside. And if there's a guy on the apron and he's groggy and he gets knocked off that apron, he needs to be able to go through that fucking table. And just spotlighting and just playing the game, all three of us together, and just making sure that, you know, all these cool, wacky, improvisational things can occur in the match was just so much fun. And I think that Yuke's, the programmers and the designers, they did a killer job with this. And it is a hallmark. For me, it's the best thing about this game is how they incorporated the physics. And like I said, it was so fun. I mean, we did so many cool things that after having played it, I'm like, why the fuck was this not in 12? Why was this not in 13? You know, and it was crazy. Like I would basically, when we were having meetings, I'd say, oh, well, would it be possible if while you're holding the chair, you could throw it at your opponent? And they look at each other like, huh? Speak Japanese? Yeah, we can do that. I'm like, cool. Let's put that on the shot list for mocap.
Sabu.
You know, yeah.
That's all I was thinking of when you could throw the chairs.
Throw the chairs. You know, the concertos, the one-man concerto. Like I basically like I just asked for everything. Like at this point in my career, once we got to 11, I realized that if I ask for something, I'm either gonna be told no, or they're gonna surprise me and say yes. And more times than not, whatever I'd ask, anything that I would ask for, I found out that it was usually a yes from Ukes. I'm like, hey, if someone's holding the chair, would it be possible if you go to a grounded opponent's leg and then you press the button and he wraps the chair around their ankle and you can stomp on it? Like, yeah, we can do that. Like all these wacky things that I requested, and they were just like, yeah, we can do this. And because it was the back of the box feature, it got the highest priority.
It's weird, Bryan, because when you got all that stuff added in, I was like, this is the shit that, could you imagine if we had this in the old games? Like, how dope it would have been to just recreate stuff with, like, Edge and Christian, but you still had them in there to recreate those moments, too, which was really cool.
Yeah. I mean, that was our goal. I made a note here, but basically, the mission statement for gameplay, as far as, with the physics, was that we wanted, I'll just read it. With SVR11, our goal was to implement functionality and gameplay systems allowing for improvisational moments of gameplay utilizing objects and the environment. Like, that's what we expressed to Ukes. This is what we kind of told them. It has to be like this. We watched, I can't tell you how many TLC matches, and we did our best to try to account for every situation. Being able to lean ladders against the barricade, against other ladders, against the ropes, being able to do all these things with the objects. We just did a deep dive into every possible thing that a player may think to do or want to do. And, we did it, being able to double stack tables and put somebody through it. Are you familiar with directional throw functionality?
You must be reading my notes, brother. That's coming up after all this, but go ahead, get into it.
Oh, okay, so directional throw was an idea that I came up with during one of these meetings, and we were talking about ways in which to allow players to, because the whole thing outside of the object interaction was basically allowing, like, yeah, if you do a move like a suplex or a power bomb near something, whether it's the ring steps, a table, a ladder, we wanted players to be able to drop an opponent on top of any of those objects, have them react to that drop, and to have all these dynamic motions. And I remember in the meeting, I was like, hey, well, would it be possible to allow players to control the direction of their throw with the left stick when they're in mid motion? And the animators were there, and they were like, well, yeah. I mean, yeah, that shouldn't be too difficult. Let us go back and we'll get a cost for you. And they came back like a couple hours, and they're like, yeah, this can totally be done. And I was like, sweet. So that's how directional throw became a part of the game, and I think it's still in the game now. But it was all based off of trying to incorporate offensive maneuvers, even defensive maneuvers, into being able to throw your opponent and have them interact and collide with these objects and just create these cool situations.
Yeah, dude, my favorite thing to create would be like where you would double stack the tables on the outside, and then the Matt Hardy, Bubba Ray Dudley. I'm more of a Matt Hardy guy than Jeff. So that was one of my favorite moments in like all the TLC matches where him and Bubba would take the bump off and all the way to the floor on their side and just go through all those tables and the plunder. I used to love that. That was one of my favorite things to recreate. The physics work so well for this, and we're getting some questions. Original Biggie kind of asked one similar to this, so we're going to combine him and Marlon's together here. He said, I have a question. Were you instructed by the WWE or the talent themselves to exaggerate their physiques? I understand that Triple H... This has been a long time rumor, so I'm going to put that around this first. Triple H did not want to look weak, and JBL had the body of a 21. I don't know what that's supposed to be, like a 21-year-old, and Umaga had a six-pack.
Yeah. I think we talked about this in our first video, or maybe it was the second one. But yeah, I mean, we were still working within the confines of WWE's creative vision for how they wanted the character models to look. So we were still in that, I don't want to say fight, but in that discussion, because on our side, we wanted the wrestlers to look, in terms of their physique, we wanted them to look as they looked on television. But the WWE, it took them a long time before they were willing and able to kind of allow us to be more realistic with the character models and how in their depiction, so that they look more akin to the real life person. So if I guess we hadn't hit that mark yet with this game, but with each iteration, WWE kind of we started to work them down a little bit to the point where they allowed us to, like, if a guy is heavy set and doesn't have a lot of definition, they were fine with us creating those models to make them look like the real life selves. But we hadn't yet achieved that, but it was always a discussion every year up until it actually became a thing. So I guess it didn't happen for this one.
Now, Bryan, I'm gonna run through some questions in here, but I'm gonna come back to one more question about the mocap and the animations and everything with this. First we have up. Where do I want to start here? Oh, Original Biggie said, I was hyped since E3 presentation for this game. He just remember seeing the physics and he was just amazed by it. And he said, thank you, Bryan, for putting this in. Why wasn't this in 12 and 13? And he missed throwing chairs. I think we'll save that for next week's discussion once we get into how those games were developed. And AR says the graphics for SVR 2011 were really interesting with the bright colors, etc. What was the decision to change it up in 12 and 13? I don't know. Was there a small thought as to why the colors? Did you guys want brighter colors, or was it just enhancing the graphics basically like you do every year?
Wait, was he saying that the colors were brighter in 12 and 13 or brighter in 11? Oh, really? I actually, playing 11, I thought that the colors looked a lot more muted to me, especially in comparison to 2010. I mean, I'm playing them back to back. But for me, 11, it seemed like almost like a duller palette. Like, I didn't get that impression, but maybe I just got a janky-ass TV. That could very well be the case.
No, I mean, I think you'll know once you play 12 and 13 and compare it.
Okay.
Maybe that's something to keep in mind or put in your notes. And Rob said that, it was supposed to be specimen. Thank you, because it was only part of it up there, and I was like, well, I don't know what that word was supposed to be. Rob said directional throws were a godsend. Yeah, I agree, Rob. Like, that was a minor thing that I thought was really dope. And the ladder and table animations, did you mocap all of those, or how did those get put in? Because they were kind of exaggerated, and I'm like, dude, did people get, like, effed up doing these, or?
All that stuff was mocap, man.
Really? Dude,
all that stuff was mocap.
That's wild.
And it was fun, dude. All right. I tell you, let me walk it back. 85% of it was mocap. Some of the motions, like some of the reactions that a wrestler would exhibit, like when they got dropped on like the steel steps or on a ladder or a table, some of those reactionary animations were programmatically created via the Havoc's engine. But situations where, like, I think you had mentioned, like if a guy was on top of a ladder and you knocked it over or you pushed it over and they fell on the ropes and they got hung up, those motions were all motion captured from like just a shit ton of angles and situations. And, depending on how the fall occurred, they would slot in the correct, collision animation. But no, we did a lot of mocap for this feature, a lot. Man, it was fun, man. Do you
remember who was on your team for that one?
Oh yeah. So at this point, I had my crew assembled. We were no longer using the WWE mocap talent. I had put together my own crew of talent. So Micah Taylor, who was just on Wife Swap.
I had to show that to my dad and tell him the dude I'm interviewing is boys with him, and he was like, "Wait, what?" I'm like, "The dude on Wife Swap right there, that's the wrestler. He knows him."
Yep. So Micah and Tracy, his wife, were part of it. Chase Stevens, who recently showed up on Impact again.
Yeah, good to see him back, actually, because I missed him in TNA.
Yeah.
Sidebar, sorry. Go ahead.
I love Chase, and I'll forgive him for putting his fist through the rental car.
Time out. No.
Who else was there? Mike Mondo.
Mike Mondo's good.
From the Spirit Squad, Cassidy Riley. I don't think Sanjay was a part of the team at this point. I think he might have came. I think I recruited Sanjay. Maybe it was like for 12 or 13.
Yeah, because I think that's when that moon stomp came in, and I used to yell at people. I'm like, "Yo, bro, if there's any move in wrestling I won't take, it's that fucking moon stomp, bro. I can't. Yeah. I would be too afraid." Sanjay never hurt anybody on it though. Perfect every time.
No. Sanjay was dope. Harry Smith.
DH? Oh, okay.
I think so. I mean, he definitely did mocap for us when he was with WWE, and then once he got released, we brought him back. I brought him back. But yeah, we had a good crew of just independent talent, former WWE, TNA guys, and like we had been working together for a couple of years now, so they knew the drill. They knew the process of mocap. They were familiar with how everything had to be done, and so we got into the studio and just banged out a ton of stuff, man. 2-week shoots for this feature. It was a lot.
Now, Bryan, first, that rent-a-car story, I'm not going to let you get away from this. Is this an off-air one? Is it one of those types of stories, or can you tell the people? If you got to think this long, it's probably not a good one.
Yeah. I love Chase. He's a brother of mine. I love him to death. He just was outside of himself one day and was angry at one of our other talents, and because he wanted to drive the car. He was in no shape to drive at all. He was just being a little hothead, and in his zeal and his zest of wanting to drive the rental car, he punched his hand through the driver's side passenger window, and he took care of it. I found out about it. The next day at mocap, they called what is it? Like, what's that one company that will come down and like replace the windows on cars? Safe Light Repair. Safe Light. Yeah.
I want a payment sent to Everything Pro Wrestling Safe Light.
Yeah, I know, right? So he took care of it. And he was very apologetic about it. He just, had too much to drink. And, sometimes it happens when you're doing motion capture for a wrestling video game. I did have to, I won't say put him on timeout, but he missed a couple of shoots because of that. But he, just a couple. And then we brought him right back. He was, like I said, he apologized to everybody and he took care of it himself. So
somebody just put in the chat, Sick put dang, he Goldberg the window. he basically, bro. Shout out to Chase Stevens though, man. One of my favorites from TNA in the early days. I still, if I ever can interview him, I just want to know what happened with all that. Like, I don't understand how this dude was never a bigger star. But AR has one more question, Bryan, before he gets out. Hopefully he's still on to hear this. He said, Bryan, before I head off, it's 2:50 a.m. So he's got to be tired.
Thank you for listening.
He said, when it came to working with THQ and 2K, you had a deadline. How freeing is it to be able to work on your game and to be able to make your time? So I think he's just talking about the time to produce the game in your position. How freeing was it? Like, did you feel like you had the time? Like, were you free, or did you feel like you were always under constraints?
You're always, you're always under constraints. Everybody who works on, and not just this game. I have to imagine anybody who works on an annualized title, like, you're under constraints. It's just a matter of, if you're being able to work within those constraints, and because that's how I thrived. Like I said, once I figured out how the game was played, where my authority extended and how far my relationship working with Yuke got better, where honestly, by this point in the game, although my paychecks had THQ on them, by this point, I felt like I was more working for Yuke than I was THQ. And because of that, you just you learn what can be done in any given development cycle for any game. You kind of realize, okay, that's too pie in the sky, but I know I can do this and get it done.
Ooh, okay.
So.
I'm sorry. He clarified his question a little bit more. He said, "I'm sorry." He meant now. He said, "Do you feel more free now than you did before?"
Yes.
Simple answer. Yes, he does.
Yeah.
Free at last.
A hell of a lot more free. Because look, whatever we do, and when I say we, I mean Ukes. Whatever we do next is going to be something that we have creative control over. At the tail end, working with 2K, although the situation was the same as far as how at THQ and Ukes, like Ukes was basically like THQ paid them to make the game. Like they were contracted to make this game for us. But that being said, there was a lot of collaboration and a lot of mutual respect between both sides. With 2K, not to say that there wasn't respect. I mean, there was definitely respect, but and I was a part of it. I was there for that 1 year for 2K15, but they were a bit more heavy-handed in their creative, where it was like, no, do this. We don't want because it's like we don't. Okay, thank you for that design, but no, do this. Like they drove it, and towards the tail end, yeah, it's like once you realize that your creative isn't really being listened to, yeah, it starts to suck. Where it's like, okay, well now, yeah, it's like, all right, they want this.
Like a robot.
I feel like a robot, yeah. So I can definitely say that whatever we do next is going to be something that we're gonna. Like I said, in that tweet that I sent out last year, we're going back to our roots. We're kicking the tires and revisiting those classics. Like Here Comes the Pain, and we're gonna go back to what made those wrestling games that people still look fondly back on. Here Comes the Pains and No Mercies. Like we're going towards that, while at the same time introducing brand new original features that, as far as I know, have not been seen in the wrestling game. I know that's stuff that I'm working on right now. And like I said, I don't know if it's going to happen or not, but I'm optimistic. And if it does happen, I think, fans are going to be in for a fucking treat. That's all I'll say.
Not a regular treat, a fucking treat.
Yes, sir.
Well, I hope to hear more about that eventually. But let's jump into the road to WrestleMania real quick. Got GTA vibes from the free roam a little bit. I know it got a little repetitive afterwards, like fighting with people was kind of like a mistake. You were like, dude, let me just get through the story. I don't want to randomly have a match backstage with somebody like Primo, and then I'm stuck trying to put this dude through a table and I'm acting stupid. And a bunch of different things with this. The free roam was cool. It seemed like a lot of people were begging for that back because of Here Comes the Pain. And sometimes what you wanted isn't exactly... I don't know how to put it. Like, they thought it would be cool, and I think once they got it back, they were kind of just like, oh, that's it.
Yeah.
People were begging for it, and then it was just like, oh, eh.
Yeah, Here Comes the Pain didn't even have free roam. You basically just chose to go to visit the GM's office, to visit the...
Well, couldn't you walk around the backstage? Wasn't that the one where you, like, see Jericho, and you would go up to him and be like, hey, what's up? And then sometimes a brawl would break out, or you would choose, like, your option.
No, I think that was Shut Your Mouth, where it was like a first person where you're like, but it wasn't even backstage. It was like you're walking the concourse of the actual arena. But Here Comes the Pain was a static. It was like menu driven. Like you were in your locker and you could choose.
Yes, you're right. You're right on that. It was Shut Your Mouth.
But fun nonetheless. And you're right. We were hearing that feedback as well about how players wanted to get like that 3D environment where they can walk backstage and interact with different superstars and all of this, that, and the other. And I played it, the past couple days, like I haven't played it for a long time. I enjoy it when it sticks to the story. I think the mode would have been better had we just nixed on the whole free roaming backstage, because it was just tedious. The environments were way too big. I've been backstage at WWE events, Raw, SmackDowns, pay-per-views, in a lot of arenas. I don't know where the hell they were doing their TV tapings in this game, but these were some cavernous backstage areas. And I think it would have gone down a lot better had they been condensed and not made so gargantuan. Because you make it that big and it just kind of seemed, there just wasn't that much activity. Like there were superstars roaming around, but they were the environment was so big and you spent so much time running here, running there. It was like, and I'm sure, like, I don't think Justin's made it in his series to 11 yet, but I would be very curious to see what he thinks about it now. Because like I said, with this game, like, I didn't have anything to do with Road to WrestleMania. That was all Justin's. That's his baby. But again, like I'm playing it again now, and like if you take away a lot of that running to this objective, running to here, running to there, like the stories, the voice acting, the writing, it's all top notch. I just think that backstage kind of gets in the way.
It's weird. It was something the fans wanted, and sometimes you get what you asked for. You got it, and then it was just like, this isn't what I really wanted now. Once you saw it.
But I also, just me knowing Justin, I guarantee you it's not what the end product as far as the backstage roaming is concerned. I can guarantee that it's not even what he had envisioned.
Yeah, I'm curious to hear what he thinks, because his last game, there's got to be a reason why it was his last, and I'm kind of curious to hear his story on why, because I'm not familiar with Justin as much as I am with like you and Dan and what happened kind of with everything. So yeah, I'll be curious to see that. This one though, you had the versus Undertaker where you could pick the Undertaker, the Kaw. I think Ziggler, Kofi was an option. I can't remember if there were anybody else, but those were the names that I wrote down that I remembered. Who?
Christian.
Was Christian? Oh, Christian had his own too. Yeah, Christian with Edge. That was kind of a dope one. That was one of the better ones, I think, actually. That you.
That's what I'm playing through right now. I'm playing through that one right now.
Rey Mysterio had one. I love the Alta tires that you got from it too. That you would get people's different gear from these two. John Cena had another one. I felt that was excessive. I'm like, yo, this dude's been in basically like everyone that had his own road to WrestleMania, but he's John Cena, so
he's John Cena. It's like you can't have it without him.
And Jericho was back again to get his own once again, but this time on the heel version instead of the baby face like in 09. So they had some really dope things in here. Creative finisher. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, it was good. The core portions of that mode were fantastic.
Creative finisher, Brian. I saw that you guys put in the call names for him this time. I don't know if that was the first year where we had them, but this year I think was the first year where I noticed it was really robust as far as what you could call the moves. Some of them, some of them had some cute names. I won't repeat all of them, but it sounded like some Ring of Honor, PWG-esque names. Maybe some New Japan in there.
I wonder who did that.
Yeah, I wonder. But I really like that, though. I thought the call names were a nice touch to add to it. And even sometimes if you hear, like, a move that sounds like it could be the Painmaker, you're like, oh, that's the Rainmaker, obviously. That's dope. Okay. Like, back in the day, we used to have to call the Miz the Miss. I can't remember what game he wasn't in the last one, but people would create him, and it's like, the Miss. And you're like, close enough to Miz. That works. But the call names were really good that you guys added those in there. DLC. I felt this was the year where DLC became a standard for what you guys had, like a plan. Like I felt like everything was kind of put into a box, and this was what the DLC was kind of going to be for the time being. And I think every game after this kind of followed this mold. And I have a cool memory if I can remember to bring it up on one of the DLC parts. So you guys had everything in here, unlock all unlockables, because when you get the game, like half the shit is like blocked off. You're like, what is this, bro? But anybody who buys the game yearly, they get the all unlock, press the button. All right, we're good to go. I got everybody who I could put in. The attribute customization, you guys had the fan access, which gave you access to online and the WWE creations to get in the community creations.
Hey, can I speak about the fan access real quick? Real quick.
Yeah, no, go into it.
So this was Corey's idea, the fan access and basically the one-time payment for all future DLC. Now, I don't know if this is the first instance of this in console video games, but if it's not the first, it was definitely one of the first. And I just want to mention that and give my boy Corey some love on this, because this was his brainchild. And the cats, he kicked it up to the people in marketing and the PR, and they loved it. So I tried to do my research on this, and I think what I found is that I think one game came out a year, I think it was the same year. It was like a Borderlands or some other AAA title that I think gets the credit for this, because wrestling games are not going to get any kind of credit. But I think this was the first instance of this in console gaming. Just wanted to throw that out there. If I'm wrong, Please, someone in the chat or if you're watching this,
I don't think
please
you're
correct me.
wrong because I hope Sick talks about it because he just mentioned something in here that I want to talk to you about. Actually, I'm going to bring it up before we get into it here real quick. Marlon, let me run through what the chat's saying. Marlon says that the anecdote about the arena size is a problem with the current gen games. Huge open worlds and maps with nothing to do in turn. Sometimes less is really more and concise. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Marlon, that's a really good point too. I do think less is more sometimes with the games. You don't need that big open world. You start thinking wild, and then sometimes you're like, well, what are we gonna put in it? What can we?
Right, exactly. It's like it's the if you populate the area with enough things to interact with and do, then great. But if you don't have the budget for that, you're much better off condensing that sucker. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Now, Brian, I got cussed out in some Facebook groups today because
oh damn,
what we've been not really cussed out, but people were kind of disagreeing with me, and I kind of had to put on my hat, and I'm like, look, I don't usually advertise in here that I do a podcast, but I was like, I'm doing a podcast with someone who created the games, and we talked about this, so it's not possible. Sick brought up, I kind of wish they offered a remastered version of these old school wrestling games. And this was brought up a lot, like Here Comes the Pain needs to be remastered since 2K21 isn't coming out, and I'm sure we'll talk about that momentarily. And somebody said, could they do a current version of Here Comes the Pain? Because we brought up already, you can't make a Here Comes the Pain remake because of how many people would have to get paid. You would need Yuke's approval. Yuke's would probably have to get back involved in it. You would also have to figure out a way to pay people for the themes. Jim Johnston's going to want his bread if he hears his themes in that game.
Yeah.
There's so many people who have to get payouts for this. Could they do it with a current roster, though, do you think?
A current roster as far as what? Current as of 2020?
Mm-hmm.
Like what? Make a game like Here Comes the Pain?
Yeah. I don't know. And I don't know if that's great either because they came out with WrestleFest. I don't know if you guys were involved in that or whatnot, but I remember the phone game WrestleFest, and I thought it was kind of trash compared to the original.
No, we didn't do that one. We being Ukes, that wasn't us.
No, I remember Marcus would tweet about it a lot, and I was just like, I can't remember who made it for the phones, but I was just like, not feeling this. It's not the same.
No, I mean Justin tweeted out yesterday about, and he had a really good response to inquiries as far as remakes of older games. It's just way too much red tape involved to do it. And yeah, if you, I mean, you and Conrad, you had mentioned that Ukes would have to get paid. Like honestly, like we wouldn't because we're pay for hire, so we don't have the rights to that name or to that game. It would be THQ, and now I guess because they took over the license, it's 2K.
Okay, so
I mean, there's nothing stopping a company from developing the game based off of Here Comes the Pain, or No Mercy for that example. But you can't take that tech and that engine
and just throw it on today's console.
Right? Yeah, that's not how it works. It's just not possible, and that's just on the tech side. And then, but that's it. It's not possible. But yeah, I mean those games are such. I mean they're classics. So yeah, you can easily develop a game that's inspired by those games. Of course, I mean obviously you want to make sure you got the right people involved. But yeah, I mean, and I guess if 2K, for example, wanted to, let's say they rebranded WWE and just Here Comes the Pain or whatever, they'd be within their right to do so. I'm not saying they will, but it would be Here Comes the Pain in name only. And if they said, it'll be inspired by that game, but it'd have to be created, brand new. I guess, I mean, they could use the old, SVR engine, but I'm sure they wouldn't want to do that. Like, if you're going to do something new, I mean, that's an old engine. Like, that's another thing about us. Is like, whatever we do, I'm really excited because, we'll be developing something from scratch, which will be, amazing.
Yeah. And I heard, I remember your interview your boss had gave out after the split initially happened, and it sounded like you guys have some crazy ass tech that you haven't gotten the opportunity to use yet.
Yeah, we got some cool stuff, some cool tech that we're actually using for another one of our projects. But can easily be incorporated into on the video game side of things.
Let me see here. Thank you for clearing that up too with a lot of people. Justin, I think, referenced us actually too in it. Like, hey, check out EPW show. Him and Brian just talked about this too. If you guys want like clarification on it. So that probably helped with a lot of views that we got last week too. DLC, let's get into this real quick. This is kind of one of the last things I wanted to talk about with you as far as SVR11. I remember.
I got some stuff.
I remember your interview with Gaming Ring, bro. This is how I knew you were happy when you made this game. This is when Bryan Williams became like one of my favorite people. I think it was Matt Black, and I'll never forget it because I used to. So I like the long interviews. I'm like, yo, let Bryan talk. Bryan was my guy because I'm like, Bryan's gonna give out information. I look in Bryan's eyes and I know when Bryan's lying or whatnot. So you were my guy back then. I'm like, Matt, you better ask him some damn hard hitting questions. So Matt was sitting there. You guys were like, yo, round robin, you got to rapid fire these joints. So I assume you guys probably were getting ready to go, and they finally got their chance to get over there with the mic, and they started asking you a bunch of questions. You were like, no. Yes. They're like, come on, man, you can answer a little more than that. You remember this?
I remember that.
And my favorite was the DLC. What about Nexus? Nexus was the shit during this time. Like, Nexus, you thought the NWO was coming back the way they were building these boys up. Dude, when you said the Nexus were in, you were like, I don't know if I'm about to get in trouble for this, but yes, the Nexus are in. Or when you would say no comment. No comment was always a yes. People were like, I think that's a yes.
Yeah, that was my tell. No comment, yeah, with me usually does me. Because if it's a no, I just say no because I don't want to get anybody's hopes up. Mm-hmm. But yeah,
I love it, man. So, but I can see like the genuine happiness on your face. Like you just look like you were in a good place. You loved making this game. It was just a good time, and I just missed you guys interacting with some of the smaller people. I know the bigger YouTubers get to go, and look, I'm cool with Viking Size Gamer, Denkops, all of those guys. Tony Pizza Guy, like they're cool dudes. Like they've listened to my suggestions, they've liked them. I think some of them follow my personal account even on Twitter. And that's dope. Really cool. I appreciate that. But I miss, like, sometimes the little guys getting invited out there, too. And I think they should do stuff like that, too. Because they have different viewpoints on, like, look, I watch this every week, bro. And this is what I think needs to be done. And they played it for a long time. I felt like those guys felt alienated once they got kind of, like, booted out of the picture as far as giving their feedback. Then it was just all to the forum. So I kind of missed that aspect. Just food for thought from me. But let's
I missed it, too. I enjoy talking to the gaming rings and like the smaller, because those are the guys that really knew their shit and cared. You know what I mean? Not to say that some of the other bigger influencers don't, but I enjoy talking to them because they would ask me questions that if it was flipped, they'd ask questions that I'd ask. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I really enjoyed those interviews.
Let's talk about what the DLC offered, shall we, Bryan? And
yes,
then you
sir.
can give your feedback in. DLC 1, this was all going to be available at launch. We have my boy, the masterpiece, Chris Masters. I was always a Chris Masters guy. I don't know why. I really wanted him to beat up Triple H when he made that joke about him on Raw, where I was like, come on, bro, the how to lose the weight. And I'm like, oh, because he's not on the gas. Well, never mind. I ain't going to get into that about the gas, but whatever. Chris Masters was in, and I think this was during the time period where Chris Masters came back, and he was like a workaholic in the ring. Like, he was putting on some banger matches on Superstars. So if you guys ever want to go back and look, he was putting on some great matches.
He got really good. Like this was like a different Chris Masters. Like, no, I agree with you. Like, he really stepped this shit up.
Yeah, he's still wrestling now too. If you guys find him on like indie shows, the dude's great. He's like mentoring indie talents and stuff. Like, the dude's really good.
Yeah, we work out in the same gym.
The masterpiece, Bryan Williams, coming at you.
Gold's Gym in Culver City, man. I see him there regularly. At least I used to before they shut down the gyms.
Now, I got to rip on you for this next one. Kelly Devil Halloween. I just have why. Why again, bro?
You know what? I had forgotten this DLC.
Was this Corey? It's Corey.
Oh, yeah.
I think Corey likes this little naughty diva DLC stuff.
I'm not going to put it solely on him, but it was him and marketing came up with this. Because I'm like, okay, Chris Masters, cool. And then I'm like, Kelly Halloween attire. The Rey Mysterio Day of the Dead attire was cool. But I'm like, come on, man. Like, who? No, all respect to Kelly, but I don't know. Like, that should have been on the disc.
I don't know why. Anytime I hear Kelly, I hear that horrible theme too. Like, I liked her in ECW. I'll just leave it at that. Holla. I'm just like, come on, bro. Come on.
Great. Now it's gonna be stuck in my brain for the rest of the night.
It's better than Brie Bella's theme, bro. That's the only way I can put it. Because Brie Bella's got one of the worst of all time, I think. That
is
Brie
true.
mode.
Yeah. Oh, I hate that. Yeah.
DLC 2 though, this is the one I thought was the shit. And I remember, and Marcus is about to get a shout out on this too. We had the British Bulldog, which I thought was dope. I think this was Bulldog 92, right? With the braids, the beads.
I think so.
I used to always tell people, I'll beat your ass with British Bulldog with the beads in his head. That was my Bulldog. Like, I don't want the shorts. I don't want the one with the slick back hair. Give me Bulldog with the beads, bro. Clotheslining people's heads off. He was in this. Lex Luger. Now, this is why Marcus is getting mentioned. I remember Marcus must have busted his ass to get that theme in the game. He did not get his original, the old school American one. He used to have the dun-dun-dun. Marcus got the I'll be your hero in there. I don't know how he did it or why he did it. I just thought of that damn Lex Express every time you come out. I'll be your hero. Just bad 90s music back then.
I was pushing for the narcissist Lex Luger, but I got overruled. So, yeah.
You know what, though? I think there was a reason why all this came together, though. Remember when I said Bulldog with the beads in his hair from 92? Because all of this is going to, come together, I think, in a second and make sense. Then we got the Nexus, bro. Wade, Barrett, David Otunga, Justin Gabriel. I know you got a story about this, because I think there's supposed to be one more name at least in there.
What, you talking about Bryan Danielson?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I guess he got let go because of choking out what's his name? Justin Roberts. Yeah, I was really upset about that.
That was bullshit though with the tie. I don't know.
I know.
I didn't even remember seeing that part until they brought it up. I'm like, you guys brought it up. I wasn't thinking about it.
I know. Yeah, they're the ones that replayed it.
Yeah.
Well, it was cool. It was good. It was cool to have Wade Barrett and Justin Gabriel. Otunga, never. He's
sorry for laughing. That's just the way you put it.
Somebody's got to take the pen. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah. Listen, dude. When I see him, I think of I Love New York. My wife used to watch all that stuff back then when we were dating, and I was just is that the dude from I Love New York? Come on, bro. Now you're a wrestler.
Hold on, I'm gonna turn my lights on real quick.
No, you're good. But they had the Nexus being in the game was something just completely different. All right. I was just happy to see them in the game. So did you ever have plans though to add anybody else in there from there? Like what happened to Ryback, or were these just the three main guys?
Yeah, I honestly don't have any memory of this DLC pack, which leads me to believe that I wasn't involved at all with it, because I was looking at this and I'm like, yeah. I mean, I remember the Lex Luger, and then it's like, oh yeah, Nexus. But beyond that, yeah, no, this was a Corey and marketing endeavor right here.
Yeah, but dude, this was relatively quick though. Like, this is the stuff. So this is what's gonna make people, I think, once they saw this in the game, this is what would make people question how come so and so's not in the game going forward. Because this was the fastest. Like, they just debuted, I think, like 2 weeks at the what do I want to say? Like the latest. They had just debuted. You were already like, yes, they'll be in the game. Like, holy shit, this is great. So,
oh yeah, as far as like our roster cutoff, you talking about?
Yeah, because people would always say afterwards, like, how? Okay, this dude's been in there for 6 months. How did he not make it? But these boys came in 2 weeks before, unless that was planned for a long time, maybe.
No, I think it was just good happenstance. Because we do have a cutoff when it comes to the roster. And it's always within, or at least it used to be, within a certain time frame, but it was never like an exact thing where it's like, oh, after WrestleMania, boom, we're done, or before WrestleMania, that's it. Every year's game was different, but if they debuted, after we had cut it off, and I'm sure, yeah, it probably was pretty soon after. Like, once the decision's made that, look, the roster is locked, we got the WWE approval, that's it. We're making these guys, we're making the roster. Anybody else we'll consider for DLC, and that's kind of it. Because at a certain point, because there's so much red tape that we have to go through in terms of getting all these assets and arenas, the roster, all these things final. So Yeah, so getting the roster finalized, getting WWE say so, it's like it's not that it's a hard thing, but it takes time. You know what I mean? We work with them back and forth to get a roster together. Once they say yes, it's like, okay, that's it. Let's start, send them out to the vendors. Let's get these guys created, implemented into the game. Anybody else, we'll table that for now. We'll come back with DLC. So the best way to get in the game, at least back in my day, was if you debuted in or around WrestleMania, you had a much higher chance of getting in the game as DLC. And occasionally on the disc itself, depending on the time.
Good point. Layla was in this DLC as well. We had Shad updated with the heel turn attire when he turned on JTG. Shouldn't have split Crime Time up, bro. Just shouldn't have. But JTG kept his job for years, and I love his book title, Damn, Why Did I Answer the Phone, or whatever.
Oh, man, I got both of his books, man. They're freaking great reads.
Yeah, JTG tells some good stories in those. HBK, I love the WrestleMania 8 attire.
Yep.
One of my favorite, slept on manias, in my opinion, WrestleMania 8, just because it was my first, pay-per-view as a kid. Shawn Michaels was really dope with the 92 Hearts version, and we got the NXT arena for the first time. So this was a good DLC pack. This may be one of the better ones. I'm like, yo, you can't put much up against this, bro. I
forgot about the NXT being a part of this. I was like, oh shit, look at that. Yeah. But then I remembered. Oh, but this is the NXT, the original.
Oh yeah. Somebody start singing "We Are Wild and Young."
Oh, well, look at the memory on you.
Yeah. Oh, no. I just remember Mike Regan singing that shit during one of the interviews back then. I'm like, dude, stop right now. I used to listen to their podcast back then. I'm like, this cannot happen right now. Let me see here. Sick in the chat says, shout out to whoever put Money in the Bank by Little Scrappy in the game in that 1 year in 07.
That was Corey.
That was Corey?
Yep.
Let me find out one day. I'm gonna drive past him and just see him listen to "I Got Money in the Bank." Show me what you drank. Man, that dude's on Love and Hip Hop now. What happened, man? What happened?
Oh, he is?
Yeah, he was a couple years ago. I don't watch it. My wife will put it on. I'm just like, oh, that's a little scrappy. He said Six said he had the biggest crush on Layla. Yo, you ain't the only one, bro. Layla. Shout out to Ricky Ortiz. He's a lucky man. I think they're
still together.
I think so.
Oh wow. Yeah,
I haven't heard anything, so I'm gonna just keep it gravy. They're good. The trash game show version of NXT, Prince Rockstar wrote, carrying barrels and shit.
He ain't lying. That was some pretty piss poor television back then.
Dude, I think he got worse when CM Punk was on commentary.
NXT is now.
Yeah, when they had the female version with Caitlyn and all them, and Punk was just on commentary, and he was like, "Oh, I watch NXT with my pants off like this every week." It looks like CM Punk was just killing it on commentary with heel Michael Cole acting a fool.
Yeah.
DLC 3 though, we got an alt attire for Cena. He had the purple. We had Straight Edge Society Punk with the mask. Taker alt attire. I think we got Ministry and American Badass out of this. Sheamus. I don't know how Sheamus had an attire without the words on it. That must have been the FCW attire he came up with, and then they were like, yo, add some letters on that or something, bro. A little minor detail.
It must have been that.
Super small. And one of my favorite things were the Nitro DLC, because that gave me some people to download and community creations. I remember I was looking for a Psychosis real bad so I could do Psychosis Rey Mysterio. Yeah, dude, really dope though. I thought the Nitro arena was a nice touch to it. I think that's just something that should be standard in those games, going forward. Put the WCW, ECW stuff in, bro. You have a library of things that they can do. They need to take advantage of it.
Yeah, I agree.
Brian, I think we touched on everything I wanted to hit on for 11. I think I incorporated enough of Original Biggie's questions. We talked about the kick-out meter earlier, so that came up before. Do you want to touch on? Mention? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I got a couple of things that I like to, again, get my shit in, as it were. I'm surprised you didn't mention the movesets.
What, for this game?
Yeah.
They improved. Great.
Really?
I think they got better from 10. 10. Yo, listen, I'm telling you, Brian, 10 pissed me off so bad, bro. You couldn't have went anywhere. So I was like, where the hell's all the moves? Why is the whole Cole doing power bombs? This is bullshit.
No, I'm pretty sure that there's a lot of people who were really pissed at me about the movesets in this game, but which I'll get to in a sec. So before I get there, so in this year's game, I redesigned the corner position. Prior to this year's game, attacks in the corner were basically just, it's like a catch-all of like avalanche type moves, grounded moves. And with this year's game, I split those up. So I added the top rope position where you could lift the opponent onto the top rope to do superplexes, like I said, avalanche style moves. Implemented contextual strikes for when the guy's in the corner. Implemented the ability to put the opponent in the tree of woe. We revamped the sandwich position where if you Irish whip one opponent in the corner and then throw another opponent in that same corner, that you could do that in previous games, but it kind of resulted in this kind of comedic collision. Mm-hmm. And so we revamped that to allow for, again, contextual attacks for when you've got two opponents sandwiched in the same corner. This also then led to, as we'll talk about in future games, the implementation of the double finisher OMG. Strike combinations made a return in this year's game, thanks to moi. I designed pin combos. Pin combos made their introduction in this year's game, as well as leverage pins. And these, I designed these kind of concurrently. And the whole thing with the pin combos was like prior to the pin combos, like if you had like a tiger suplex, if you did it in a match, it just always ended in the pinning motion. But what would happen is that when the game was in QA, we would frequently get bug reports about what to do with these moves that have pins attached to them if they're being used in a match where pins aren't a factor into the finish. And we would always have to, figure out some kind of workaround. And I remember with this year's game, I just got tired of seeing that damn fucking bug. So I just asked Yuke, I'm like, hey, look, can we just give players the option to initiate the pin during the course of the move? And that way we don't have to do these move swaps depending on the matches. And they were like, again, sure. Yeah, we can do that. So that's how pin combos came into play, and leverage pins as well, because I basically took out all of the regular pin moves like schoolboys, those type of moves, and just converted them into leverage pins. And they're still in the game to this day. I'm very proud of the pin combos. I love pin combos.
Pin combos were great. I forgot all about those being in.
Yeah, and then a couple of other small things. I don't want to keep everybody too long, but so this was the first year that if you had a title match, the correct title appeared at ringside. Before this game, we used the same belt model for every title that's being defended. So if you had the U.S. titles on the line, if you went to go to ringside to grab a belt to use as a weapon, it was always the World Heavyweight Championship.
And before that, the European in the old games.
Yeah. So this was the first year where we put the correct belts in. And again, it was one of those things where just sitting in an office with Yuke, so I asked them if they could do this, and they were like, yeah, shouldn't be a problem. And on that same token, talking about titles, I said, hey, also just a small thing, but would it be possible to put the name of the champion on their nameplate during entrances? Because prior to this, if you came out in an entrance and you were the champion, the nameplate was just empty. It didn't have any name etched on it or anything. And I asked them if they would be possible, and they were like, yeah, be some. Yeah, we can do this. Why not? So that's something that, like a small thing, but I was a stickler for authenticity. And it would always drive me crazy to see these entrance, motions where these titles had no names on them. I didn't like that.
Yeah.
And this was the year that we had MVP. I asked WWE, I put in a request to see if we could get MVP to come in and mocap his own motions. So we finally got his correct entrance victory, taunts and finishers and all the moves that he did. He came in to a mocap shoot and provided us with all that cool stuff.
Thank God.
And that's it. Oh, and okay, that's not it. I'm sorry. So, yeah, I fucked up the movesets in this game. This was the game. I even got a tweet about it from someone a couple of days ago, kind of salty at me about it, and I take full responsibility for it. And I can go on this long explanation of why I did what I did, but I'll save it. I'll just say, look, I heard you guys, and I miscalculated a great deal. And because of all the feedback that I got from all the fans about how disappointed they were in the movesets. I spent all the remaining years working on the franchise trying to correct that mistake. So I apologize if I pissed anybody off with the changes and the requests that I made for movesets. And that's it. That's all. And the match creator was added this year too. Another create mode that was added.
Yeah, match creator. It was still dry, I think, a little bit during this time, but that was a great thing though, just to add some difference to matches and stuff that you just needed. Like, switch this up, switch that up. Like I said, to me, this is an underrated game. A lot of people feel that way about it. Sick asked a question about has anyone ever thought of using Lupe Fiasco's song Superstar? It would be a great track to add to the game. I brought up the soundtrack Money during this time period. More Luke Gallows theme, please. Somebody said, who was this? Prince Rockstar said, funny thing about wrestling games is kicking Vince's ass, and he started laughing. Yeah, I can tell you a really funny story. I swear if I could get my boy on, I don't even want to say his real name, but he got so pissed one time playing No Mercy. He was like, I'm going to just do this quick European title match. And I remember Vince McMahon slapped his ass off the ladder, and we laughed so hard. I never saw someone rage quit so bad. I was like, nah, just let it happen, bro. And we let Vince pull the title down. We wouldn't even let him get to the controller. We're like, dude, somebody hit the A button. Hurry up so it's saved so he can look at this every time. Remember the foolish decision he tried to make before we left to go out somewhere. So, yeah, those are funny moments about beating up Vince.
Yeah.
He
makes for a good punching bag.
Sick said that those were a lot of good additions to the game, man. That you have brought up, that you guys added.
I'm proud of this one. I'm proud of this.
2K21.
I'm proud of both.
2K21, Brian. We got to address just to start a little quick controversy about all this week. Got people talking. News, wrestling media outlets are running with it. Justin Smart, man, he's making his channel big with this. So,
yeah.
What do you think about them taking a year off and all that? If all this is true.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I should. Well, yeah. I mean, look, if it's true, and I'm not saying it is, but I know Justin very well. He's a very good friend of mine, and Mr. Leaper is not a liar. He's one of the most stand-up individuals that I know. So that's what I'll say about that, because I know some people were kind of saying that he was like a disgruntled employee and all this, that, and the other. And no, that's not Justin. Because he like myself, like Dan, like he gives a fuck about the wrestling community, the people that are forking over their $60 each year for these games that they love. So whatever he's saying, like it's coming from a pure place as far as like having the fans back. But that being said, I don't know where he got the information. I don't talk to anybody at 2K. If he is, then yeah, I mean, it sounds. I think I even told you. I mean, it sounds plausible to me.
Yeah.
But I don't know what's going on. But
I think fans were speculating this already though beforehand. I know Viking Size Gamer put up a video like, guys, this game may be canceled, and people kind of like trashed him for it for a second. But I'm like, no, dude, he's probably right. Like, and then this popped up, and it's like, yeah, it's definitely over.
Yeah, it's not a far-fetched thing to consider. I mean, especially, it's, yeah, so I don't know. But, shit, what was the initial question? Oh, if I think they should take a year off. I mean, look, it couldn't hurt. I mean, it won't hurt. I mean, it'll hurt WWE, but again, even Justin said that, he was just referring to the mainline sim console version of the game, and he had mentioned about maybe some other non-sim WWE title. Maybe that'll be enough to offset, whatever money that they'll lose with not having, WWE 2K. But I know, look, from a creative standpoint, taking whatever WWE wants or needs out of the equation, of course. I mean, we all would have killed to have given, in a year off to really kind of make the changes and implement the sort of things that we'd want to do by having that extra time. So if that's the route that 2K is taking, I think it's a smart one. Again, just from a creative, a creative side, as someone who's worked on these games. I mean, I look at 2011 in particular, and I think it's fucking amazing the amount of content that we added, just the physics shit alone, in 1 year's time, which is not even a full 365 days. We're talking pure development. Yuke's. They developed that game in 8 months.
Yeah,
You know,
that's beast.
that's incredible. Imagine an additional year on top for this game, let alone for SmackDown versus Raw 2008 or any of these other games. I mean, it'll just only make the games better.
Yeah.
I mean, that's in theory at least. You got to have the right people working on the games, but in theory.
Big facts, big facts. A lot of people are just saying that it's time to go back to the basics, and this is the perfect starting point because they need to change something as far as this goes. And I agree with you guys as far as that goes. But we've been going for about 2.5 right here, so we'll end this one right here. The next one we're going to talk about will be WWE 12 and WWE 13. So we get a name change, and I think we got a lot to talk about as far as marketing and everything else goes with those games. So I look forward to doing that with you, Bryan. We'll do that next Tuesday as well. So catch us here at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I will be back tomorrow with an AEW Dynamite review. So make sure you guys keep it locked to the podcast if you are listening. And thank you guys so much for the love that has been shared with me during this tough times. So I appreciate everybody who took the time out to listen. We're out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Peace.
Peace.